too long. I've been out here on my own. Now I'm about to bring it home like a rolling stone. I ain't never been afraid to die. Look a man in the eye. I come to give you what you love. It's time to give you what you love. I'ma give you what you love. Give you what you love. I am sharper than a switchblade, first and last of what God made, and that's the truth. But man, keep on trying to hold me back while another chicken head come on loose. Too strong, try to do me wrong, and the last one standing will order and command you to dance. Oh, dance. Run to your preacher and your teacher, I'ma give you what you love. I got to give you what you love. It's time to give you what you love. Give you what you love. Give you some love. Yeah, baby. I said I take your time. Take what you love, baby, just enough. But never too much, baby. Take your time. Take what you love and work it, baby. Grab you better look at that, baby. Take your time. Take what you love, baby, just enough. But never too much, baby. Take your time. I wanna give you some love. Won't you give me what you
Good afternoon, all and sundry. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Listen. Last week, Thursday, Marvel was in a situation. Marvel was in a place. And so I came in here and I decided to discuss what was in my heart and on my mind, simply because I am not just someone that sits in the studios every day and have dialogue with you about nonsensical things. I am literally, and I have been, an anti-racist trainer for over 2 decades. And so I'm sitting in spaces and having conversations and sitting on committees and being highlighted. And so I know what's happening out here. Sometimes I can't cite my sources because of the confidentiality nature of my work. But when I say to you, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. So I got on here last Thursday and talked about the fact that this election is around the corner, that Pennsylvania is the most important state in these elections, and that we were going to have a problem where we're asking black people to vote with alacrity because we're very concerned about white women, right, especially in the suburbs. Well, CBS Today's show put on a whole episode with suburban women from Montgomery, Bucks, and Delaware County to talk about what are they going to do in this election. And one of them, a woman by the name of Helen, said, who lives in Montgomery County, so I want you all to pay attention, said that she was a practicing Democrat, would show up to the polls and did everything she needed to do every election. And after she learned about Donald Trump, she changed her party affiliation and voted for him. Helen is a microcosm of what's been happening in and around the country. I have been having dialogue with white women everywhere in my work, and they're saying the same thing. They keep saying to me, listen, we don't agree with what he's doing with the pandemic. We don't agree with how he's handling the country, but we prefer him over anybody else because he's done more. I don't know what that more is. They can't describe what more is, except to tell me that they want their middle-class America back, that people of color have been doing too well under their estimation, and they need to get their middle-class America back. And Donald Trump makes them feel seen. That is the conversation I've been having everywhere. Imagine my having to listen to this, right? And this has been going on since 2015, having these dialogues and trying to get people to understand that, you know, the lives of people matter. And even though they're seeing what's happening around the country, that black men and black women and black and brown people are being maligned in many ways, they keep saying to me, listen, I know, but there's always a but. I know, but if they're just listen to the police, I know, but if they just pull themselves up by their bootstraps, I know, but. And so that's what we keep hearing time and again. And so I don't think anybody was surprised when it came out that our current president has not paid taxes. You know, in 10 years, he's paid $1,400 total in taxes. 1 year alone for me, I owed over $50,000 in taxes. So I just need to understand why he's able to get away with not paying taxes, and me, who would be considered a middle-class American, would have to pay that kind of money in taxes and follow all the rules, right? And so the Guardian staff, which was written Sunday, September 27th at 1904 Eastern Standard Time, it says it was written by the Guardian staff. They said the president pays little, faces hefty audit costs as well as loans coming due soon, and Ivanka is not in the clear. It's a New York Times publishes Trump tax returns. This is why I share the New York Times reports with you all the time. I vet them. I want to make sure that what they're giving us is clear and concise and that we're understanding what is happening here. The publication of Donald Trump's tax records by the New York Times is one of the biggest bombshells to hit a 2020 election campaign already buffeted by a litany of scandals, a bitter fight over a Supreme Court nomination, and a pandemic in which 7 million Americans have been infected and more than 200,000 have died. The president's taxes have long been the great white whale of political reporters in America, as well as prosecutors keen to find evidence of wrongdoing. Democrats, too, were eager to seize on them as a potentially game-changing shtick with which to beat the Trump campaign. The Times, with its shock report published on Sunday evening, which is last night, appears to have won the race. Its publication of details from the documents could send shockwaves through the campaign as the key first debate between Trump and challenger Joe Biden looms in Ohio on Tuesday night. Good afternoon, everybody on Facebook. I see you all. I'm going to respond to all of you in a little bit. Let me finish reading this, right? The Times reported that Trump paid no federal income taxes in 11 of 18 years the newspaper looked at. In 2017, after he became president, his tax bill was only $750. This is despite Trump's often railing against taxes in America and ushering through a series of tax cuts that critics say mostly helps the rich and big business. The Times said of Trump's immediate predecessors, Barack Obama and George W. Bush each regularly paid more than $100,000 a year. Trump is involved in a decade-long audit with the Internal Revenue Service over a $72.9 million tax refund he claimed, a tax refund now, he claimed and received after declaring huge losses. A ruling against him could cost him more than $100 million, the Times reported. In addition, in 2011, the IRS began an audit reviewing the legitimacy of the refund. Almost a decade later, the case remains unresolved for unknown reasons and could ultimately end up in federal court, where it could become a matter of public record. The president's oldest daughter, while working as an employee of the Trump administration organization, appears to have received consulting fees that helped to reduce the family's tax bill, the Times said. Such a revelation might further tarnish the reputation of Ivanka, a senior White House advisor married to another, Jared Kushner, who often tries to distance herself from some of the biggest scandals of her father's administration. She is widely believed to harbor political ambitions of her own after Trump leaves office. The Times reported Trump's private records show that his company once paid $747,622 in fees to an unnamed consultant for hotel projects in Hawaii and Vancouver, British Columbia. Ivanka Trump's public disclosure forms, which she filed when joining the White House staff in 2017, showed that she received an identical amount through a consulting company she co-owned. The Times was brutal in its assessment of Trump's businesses, about which he often boasts and on the back of which he sought to promote a carefully curated image as a master businessman. Trump's core enterprises, from his constellation of golf courses to his conservative magnet hotel in Washington, report losing millions, if not tens of millions of dollars year after year, the newspaper said. It detailed how, since 2000, Trump has reported losing more than $315 million at his golf courses, with much of that coming from Trump National Doral in Florida. His Washington hotel, which opened in 2016 and has been the subject of much speculation regarding federal ethics laws, has lost more than $55 million. The newspaper also reported that Trump is facing a major financial bill, as within the next 4 years, hundreds of millions of dollars in loans will come due. The paper said Trump is personally responsible for many of these obligations. The paper reported in the 1990s, Mr. Trump nearly ruined himself by personally guaranteeing hundreds of millions of dollars in loan, and he has since said that he regretted doing so. But he has taken the same step again, his tax records show. He appears to be responsible for loans totaling $421 million, most of which is coming due within the next 4 years. In a blunt summary of the problem, the Times speculated, should he win re-election, his lenders could be placed in the unprecedented position of weighing whether to foreclose on a sitting president. I want y'all to pay attention. Trump's businesses profit from his presidency. The issue of whether Trump's businesses benefit from his position in the White House has been one of the long-running themes of reporting on Trump's presidency. The global nature of the Trump Organization and its portfolio of hotels, resorts, and other interests has left Trump open to speculation that lobbyists, business leaders, and foreign powers could spend money in them to try and peddle influence in the United States. The Times report on his tax returns is clear that Trump's businesses have indeed benefited from his political career. Ahead of this year's election, Donald Trump is busy running the largest misinformation campaign in history as he questions the legitimacy of voting by mail, a method that will be crucial to Americans casting their vote in the pandemic. Good afternoon, all of you. I see you on social media. I'll get to you in a second. This is one of a number of attempts to suppress the votes of Americans, something that has been a stain on U.S. democracy for decades. The Voting Rights Act was passed 55 years ago to undo a web of restrictions designed to block Black Americans from the ballot box. Now, 7 years after that law was gutted by the Supreme Court, the president is actively threatening a free and fair election. There is something that I want you all to hear before I go to break. It is by an artist called Yellow Pain. His government name is Tahir Montre Kendrick. He is from Dayton, Ohio. He released this piece at the beginning of 2020, and it's called Abuse to Suffer. This young cat is worth $6 million. I want you all to take a listen to it. Open your ears and really pay attention to what he's talking about as it applies to our vote, because knowledge is power, and ignorance is no longer bliss. Take it away, Mike.
Enough electoral votes, more than 270, more than enough to become the 44th President of the United States. He will be the first African-American President of the United States.
I've been broke all my life, but I kept hope all them nights. You see business in my city? Yeah, they closed all them twice. I was just riding down Salem, all them damn potholes, I can't drive. I know y'all can fix it faster, but I know y'all won't try. Don't nobody care about us. And that's wrong vote. Voted for Obama back in 2012. I remember that's when I had hope. He was saying, yes, we can. And everybody got less food stamps. And when I turned 21, I was still broke. I'd never vote again. I don't think I ever had a president make my life better. Did it all on my own. Ain't no politician ever do a nice gesture. I don't even know the mayor's name. I ain't never seen her one time ever. Tell me how she gonna help the city. What I'm supposed to do, write letters? What I'm supposed to do, blame Trump? He ain't never never really gave a ain't nobody raised minimum wage. None of these jobs pay enough. I think they just want to keep us broke, cause they ain't putting none in place for us. This how all my people feel, but we gotta learn. We complained enough, let me change it up. Everything I just said, everybody I know think the same way. See, they don't want to see us vote, and we never do, so we see the same thing. But all our votes really do count, and they'll never really let it show. So now I'm finna break it down, cause if I don't, you would probably never know. First thing first, you know back in middle school when they taught us, it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor, or the governor, and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws, they just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch, yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do, okay y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't ever even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though. So you know how back in 08, when we all voted for Obama, we was all supposed to go back in 2010 and vote for the Congress. Cause they the ones make child support laws, they the ones choose if your kids at school get to eat steak or corn dogs. The State House make the court costs. So if the country failed, then you can't say it's them, it's your fault. Cause y'all ain't know to vote for Congress members that was for y'all. And they don't gotta leave after 4 years, and we just let them sit. See, they don't wanna tell you this, they want you to focus on the president. Now the 3rd branch is the judicial, that's judges. They the reason why John Crawford and Trayvon, they had justice. So when Meek Mill got locked up just for popping willies, we blame the judge and not the city when they let her get voted in, cause they ain't know who to vote against. Imagine life on the other side. Roads better, schools better, everybody get their license back. Grocery store food better, custody of your kids back. Homeless people get new shelters. If we gon' fix the U.S., we gotta start with them 2 letters, me and you. Somebody told us that the government wanna keep us broke, but the only reason why those people in the government is cause we ain't vote. And I ain't talking about the president, I'm talking about the ones we ain't know. See, they was gonna try to keep it low, but it's gonna hurt them when they see the polls.
Every time you stay home, someone is making a decision about you, making decisions about the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food your kids eat, and how much money you bring home every 2 weeks. So every time you sit out an election, every time you don't show up because you think it doesn't matter, someone else is happy that you didn't show up, so they can make that decision for you. Vote.
Well. I am hoping that all of you listen to that. If you are on my social media page, I actually posted it there too. This young man is 20 years old and was able to break down the judicial, legislative branches of this government in a way that I think many people can understand. Go vote. Get up and go vote, and not just in the presidential. The presidential election is okay, but it's our Congress, it's our legislative branches, our judicial branches that we have to vote within. And I think a lot of people don't pay attention to that. So we need to know who our judges are. We need to know who the people that are running for our council, city council, for state reps, for Congress, for Senate. Those people are changing your laws. And please, for everything that is holy, we have 2 days left before the census is over. Apply and fill out the census too. We're losing $20,000 per person who does not fill it out, and we tend to lose billions of dollars in the city of Philadelphia alone. And that's where I'm going to stop with that. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home.
In the happy hour
With Sincerely Sarita.
Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m.
Right here
on Word Radio, 96.1 FM.
and 900 AM WURD.
We've all adjusted our daily routines in these unprecedented times. And for many of us, voting at our polling place in November is a routine that means so much. But did you know that every Pennsylvania voter can vote by mail from home this year? Whether you're a Pennsylvania senior, essential worker, or simply someone who needs more flexibility to vote within a challenging schedule, voting by mail allows you to make your voice heard at the ballot box on your schedule while protecting your family's health. You can turn your mailbox into a ballot box by simply visiting votespa.com on your computer or any mobile device to request your mail-in ballot. With November 3rd around the corner, it's more important than ever to request your mail-in ballot today. It's simple, secure, convenient, and safe. This year, you shouldn't have to choose between your vote and your health. We're all in this together, and voting by mail gives you the power to make your voice heard. So sign up at votespa.com or return your mail-in ballot application to your county election office today. Paid for by Power Interfaith.
At PICO, we know one thing is certain. Times have changed. From kitchen classrooms to couch conference calls, searching for a new job, or new ways to keep your family connected. These changes have become a part of our reality. That's why our teams are working 24/7 to meet the needs of our communities. So no matter how much things change, you can depend on PICO to be there with the energy and help you need to power through. Learn more at pico.com.
Trump spends his time golfing, while COVID-19 hits the black community hard. It's not just wrong, it's immoral. We need Joe Biden. Joe takes COVID-19 seriously and understands the economic and health impact it's had on our community. Joe will listen to the medical experts, and he will protect Obamacare. Trump, he won't even wear a mask. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by Ask Me People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AskMePeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. I have to give credit to a woman by the name of Catherine who sent me that video on WhatsApp, and I checked it out, made sure that there was no, I vetted it as I should have, and then I reached out to Joss and Dee Patel, who is our new program manager, to ask if it was okay for me to play it. Again, it's an artist by the name of Yellow Pain, YELLOPAIN. I'm asking you all to share it on your pages so that you can understand. Mike, did you just share the YouTube? Mike is sharing the YouTube with you guys on the Facebook page, and it's called Abuse to Suffer. So, yeah, he did. He just shared it, so that's good. You guys can have it there. Go on the WURD TV live page, and you will see it there. Before I go to Asata, who I cannot wait to talk to, let me grab Mary from Mount Airy. Mary, are you there, Miss Mary?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, young ma'am?
I just want the American people to know that not only is Donald Trump's information listed with the IRS, it's with the Security Exchange Commission also. They're sitting on those documents. We have investigators and prosecutors with the Security Exchange Commission. They allow Bernie Madoff to rip off Jewish people for decades. So, this is being allowed by these prosecutors and investigators that are in place that don't want to do their job. They had that information on Donald Trump for years and failed to act because they wanted to get ahead in their position. So they aided and abetted in a crime also. Like I said, everything is documented. They even removed his sister from the judgeship in Pennsylvania because she was with the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, a federal judge, and they're in those positions for life. They removed her based on the fraud that Donald Trump is committing right in front of our nose. It sickens me because I have to pay taxes for the rest of my life.
Ma'am, Miss Mary, yes.
And people need to realize that when you have this man just defrauding you of making this country whole, and you're sitting up accepting this. They said he racked up $1.6 billion since the time he was in office. And once you defraud the federal government, it's a law in place that you cannot even run for an elected position. We have senators sitting up there that failed to impeach or convict Donald Trump that committed federal crime. And we're looking at no one is adhering to the laws that they call themselves putting in place. We need to make sure we get rid of these people. And my main concern, not only are we being ripped off nationally, but in Philadelphia County, they just indicted our treasurer. And I'm not hearing not one thing about
You know
this.
what? You will hear it from me today. I actually saw it on Friday, Miss Mary. My eyes darn near popped out of my head. And so I reached out to a few people, but I want to make sure that what I was reading was correct, because I do not want to ever give this information. There's enough of it flying around. So we'll talk about that. But I have to get to my next guest. So thank you for calling, Miss Mary. I appreciate you, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I am looking forward to this next interview. Asata Thomas, director of the Institute for Community Justice, a program of Philadelphia Fight. As director, Ms. Thomas oversees the effective execution of ICJ's aims to provide support, education, and advocacy for individuals, families, and communities who are impacted by mass incarceration. Ms. Thomas has over 2 decades of experience in the social services field, which commenced with her training as a corrections officer with the state of New Jersey, during which time she held the distinction of having been the first female president of the Corrections Officers Training Academy of New Jersey. She left the New Jersey Department of Corrections in order to pursue studies at Rutgers University. And while she's still raising her children, parallel to her studies, she also worked part-time with a wide range of social services programs, from protecting troubled youth to aiding homeless veterans. Ms. Thomas received a BA degree with honors in African American and Urban Studies, a minor in sociology. She thereafter was the director of a Camden-based reentry program. Ms. Thomas maintains an unflagging commitment to social justice and building a society emancipated from the socially inequitable and calloused, profoundly destructive system of mass incarceration, a society where even the most vulnerable communities have equal and unrestricted access to health care, to justice, and to unqualified protection of their safety and security. Ms. Thomas is a passionate advocate on behalf of those affected by mass incarceration, and moreover, having lived through the experience of a felony conviction, is uniquely qualified to speak with credibility and authority to the issues of facing all who have been affected by the system, such as the challenges faced by returning citizens for a fair chance at social rehabilitation, healthy reintegration back into society, and the chance to redesign their futures and destinies. Ms. Thomas' personal trajectory and hard-won successes fuel her passion to help others, and they offer a concrete and inspiring example for others that, despite the odds, success is possible. Asata Thomas, welcome to The Source.
Thank you. That was a lot.
Listen, I started reading and I said to myself, well, I need to read all of this because people need to know. People need to know.
You.
So you're the one that came to me through Evan, correct?
Yes.
You know, Evan is one of my favorite people.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
Yes. And so when he texted me, I said, okay, Evan knows he's in PR, so he understands. Don't send me any foolishness. So when he sent your stuff, I was like, oh, we can do this. We can absolutely do this. So tell us all about this. Where do you want to start? I gave you space, by the way, so we don't have to get off at 1:41. We can talk. Okay? All right. So where do you want to start? Where did your journey begin that you got so involved in mass incarceration?
Yes. So I want to go back to, as you were reading in my bio, it just was so highlighted for me how far away I am from being a correction officer. And I would say that is probably where it started unconsciously, this thing in me. And so I want to say a child, but both of my parents are Jamaican, and so I grew up in this very much structured.
Your parents are Jamaican?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, we'll talk about that
later. Yes.
So this is very much, structured, high level, all of those things that go along with growing up in a Caribbean household. And so I literally had never even heard of a correction officer. That just was not in my sphere of living. And so, long story short, subsequently became one, and I was incensed. I was young, in my early 20s, incensed at the treatment of other humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't articulate what it was at that time, but I just knew innately that this wasn't right. This is not the way we treat other human beings. I don't care what they did. This is not the way we treat other human beings. And so after some years, I left because I was going home carrying all of that.
Yes.
Every day. And
understood.
So, yeah, I left there and through a series of some, personal choices that I made. I made a wrong choice, a couple of wrong choices, right? And so as a result, I was facing 15 to 20 years incarceration. First-time offender, again, where the system is so racist and divided, right? So I was going back and forth to court for 4 years, and finally I want to say thankfully received probation, but I had a co-defendant who actually went to prison, but I forever have this felony conviction that quote unquote follows me, right? Just we talk about being in the box, we talk about all of these things, but the reality is that is a part of my dossier, if you will.
And let me say this to you, Assata. Let me say this to you. It was a part of what needed to happen to get you to the place where you are today.
Listen, I would pass the offering plate if I was there. Please understand, it is as a direct result of that pain that propelled me into my purpose, and I'm doing what I was purposed to do as a result of that. Wow. And so having the opportunity, and, jobs, or being denied for jobs, of course, and things coming up, but I knew innately it was going to be some type of social justice. So one day I'm at the job in Camden for housing for persons who were being released from corrections, and they were phasing out because they lost the grant. I said, I need another job. And so, Andrea, this starts this whole anxiety again because I got to write down this, I got a conviction. So this whole process starts. And filled out an application on Indeed, Philadelphia Fight. I had never heard of them before, but reading their information, I said, I think they would at least give me
a chance.
Came in as a case manager, and 3 months later was promoted to manager, and I think 2 years later promoted to director. I am purpose. The favor of God is on my life. I acknowledge that.
Yes.
And I am walking in my purpose, and I'm using my voice for those who don't have a voice or can't use a voice or who are not being heard.
So part of the lesson that I hear from you that I want people to grasp is that we all make mistakes in this life. We have a tendency to dismiss and discard people when they make mistakes, right? And I tell folks all the time, you don't point the finger if you have never made them, but I've never done this and I've never done that. But guess what? My mistake may not be your mistake, but it's still something that could cost, right? And so I love this story in that you were able to, because, having a record, to be federally convicted of anything, first of all, the anxiety that comes with having to put that on a job application every time you have to do it, right? Let's start there, right? And then going to sit at an interview. Let's say they give you the interview. Sit through the interview and tell your story. Part of the issue is, and I love this about, the conversation that you and I are having, is that you said, I made some mistakes. Here's a part of the problem that I'm having, Assata. Lots of people have been federally convicted that did not make those mistakes, that were wrongfully tried and prosecuted with federal records.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And that's one of the persons we're featuring on Friday the 9th. I implore everybody to register. If you can only register for one, I am asking you to register for the one on October 9th, where you will hear from a man who has been wrongly convicted. And he's on his 22nd year, 7th month. The Pennsylvania Innocence Project is representing him, but he's still sitting in jail, and we need to make noise. That is not okay.
Yes, right.
That is not okay.
So tell us about this thing on October 9th. What's happening?
Yes, so we're having a prison summit. Typically, we have them biannually at the convention center, but obviously we had to pivot. So now there's a virtual summit. It is actually October 5th through the 9th.
Okay.
And the 5th is the plenary, And each subsequent day, there are 2 webinars, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And we will be talking about social justice. We must confront directly the systems that were designed to divide us.
Yes.
We have to talk about these systems that were designed to conserve supremacy, white supremacy, male supremacy, heterosexual supremacy. We have to directly confront these systems. And so how we confront them is by first being informed about them and how they operate. See, people often say that ignorance is bliss, but ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is your death.
Yep.
Right? And so my goal for this summit is not just for people to come on and hear a bunch of people talking. It is a call to action.
Yes.
Now, after all that you have heard, what are you willing and prepared to do? And we will provide some action steps, things that people can do. But you know what, Andrea, if I can be 100%.
Please do.
All right. I'm tired of people posting stuff on social media. I'm tired of seeing all the pictures. I'm tired of, that's cool. But where's your action? Stop talking about it. Let's see about it.
Come on now.
Where do we move to the action step? When does that happen?
Asata, I was on here last Thursday. I came in these studios wired for sound, saying the same exact thing. We'll put up posters, rest in peace, Breonna Taylor. We'll get emotional about the things that are happening around us. But what are we doing? I keep asking these questions. What are we doing?
That's what I want to know.
Yep.
Where are we taking that rage and that outrage? Because believe it or not, when we rise up as a people, they listen. But they don't care about you sharing your Facebook post with Breonna Taylor 20 times. That's what that means.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They
You know
don't
what?
care about that.
Hold on. Let me take a quick break because I'm so loving this conversation. If Evan is sitting beside you, give him a big old hug from me. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Keeping you informed. As a community service, Word Radio and the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium wants to keep you informed about where you can get no-cost, barrier-free COVID-19 testing this week.
Tuesday, September 29th, from noon till 5 p.m. at Sharon Baptist Church, 3955 Conshohocken Avenue. Thursday, October 1st, from 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. at New Covenant Church of Philadelphia, 7500 Germantown Avenue. And Saturday, October 3rd, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Mount Airy Church of God in Christ, 6401 Ogontz Avenue.
Stay informed and stay well with Word Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
The Word Radio newsletter.
Keeping you informed, engaged, and connected.
Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources.
Stay informed
with the Word Radio newsletter.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining me, I have the director of the Institute for Community Justice, Asata Thomas, who is talking about a virtual prison summit that's happening from October 5th to the 9th. And man, the conversation is riveting. Did not know both her parents are from Jamaica. And she talked about the criminal justice system and how unfair it is. And what are we doing exactly to create systemic changes? What roles do we have in all of this beyond wringing our hands and crying a river, right? Ms. Thomas, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
I could talk to you all day. It's a shame I have to get up.
I'm feeling it.
Yes, because I love people who are, I say this all the time. My siblings and I talk about this, and it started with my parents. So I'm from Jamaica. I was born and raised there. And we talk about all the time that if we want to see a life change, that we have to look beyond our own familial circles, right? Who are we helping outside of our families with expectations of nothing in return? That is how we move the needle forward. How are we getting people out to register to vote if we're talking about an election? How are we getting people to fill out the census? I was telling people that I would go and find my folks, that are documented and undocumented, and say, look, you gotta. Here's how you fill out the census, and if they don't understand, walk them through the process. Like, we have a responsibility beyond just throwing our hands in the air and ringing them and creating a bunch of noise day after day after day. And so when you said to me that, what are we doing? What exactly are we doing? I feel you on that one. So the summit is coming up. What do you want people to, how do they register, right? Where do they go to register? And is there a cost for it, et cetera, et cetera?
Thank you. So the summit is absolutely free.
Okay.
Free.com. It's free. You go on fight.org, and you will see a link to register. I want to let folks be mindful that you register for each webinar separately. In other words, you just can't register for Monday and think you're registered for the rest. So they're each broken down separately.
Okay. Webinar. And what are the webinars?
The webinars on Monday is the opening plenary. That is myself. District Attorney Larry Krasner is the keynote. We'll have Congressman Dwight Evans, Staff Inspector Dr. Bailey Davis, Chief Public Defender
Kia Bradford.
Yep. We'll have entertainment by Sisters Laying Down Hands.
Oh, you are not playing. You are not playing.
Okay. Judge Stephanie Sawyer and Robert Salim Holbrook on Monday. And so the days are broken out, Andrea, the 5 days into an acronym that is CITE.
Okay.
But each day stands for something different. So Monday is C. Tuesday is Imagining, and it's Criminal Justice Reimagined with Staff Inspector Dr. Jacqueline Bailey Davis. And the second workshop is amazing as well. It's Understanding the Design of Education as both a pipeline and a nexus to the prison system.
What time is that one?
Yes, that's at Tuesday the 6th. That's at 12:15.
Oh, I'm on the air at 1 p.m., but I'm going to try to get in and see what I can listen to.
Okay.
All right.
And then it goes on. We have some folks doing and empowering communities with the new system from the Public Defender's Office. We have the brother named Dennis Febo from Amend the 13th talking about voting. We have on Thursday, Heal Healthcare as a Right and Not a Privilege. And then we have a dynamic workshop, all people of color, talking about the culture of health, healing ourselves to heal our communities.
Yes.
That's going to be amazing as well. And then again, Friday, as I spoke about, is Tyree Wallace, the keynote man, who will be speaking on Friday. So I am elated about the folks. They were all chosen with an intentionality of a call to action.
Yes.
And throughout the week, from Tuesday through Friday, we will also be featuring our art of resistance. So art from persons who have been impacted, as well as those who just have this scope of social justice and what that looks like.
Wow. My sister, I guarantee you, if you didn't go through the mess you went through, this wouldn't be, it's so often when we see people in positions like yours where they've not been impacted by the system that they're operating in. And so there's a level of removed. They're like so removed from it. You know what I mean? They don't fully get it. And so when people are looking at them, I say this all the time with nonprofits, you have to have people working within your nonprofits that understand exactly the subject matter that they're talking about. Because otherwise people, A, don't trust, and B, are like, well, you don't know what you're talking about because I'm sitting here in the middle of this. I know what I've gone through, and so you can't help me. So the fact that FIGHT hired you, kudos to them. Kudos to them.
Yes,
and I know you will do everything to make sure you maintain, not only maintain, but thrive in your position so you can help untold numbers of people. That's how you make reparations for your life, my sister. That's it.
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative, as you said, to the CEO of Fight James Show, who just supports me unequivocally with whatever I can think. Because I don't believe there's a, people say think outside the box. I have no box. If I could think it, we could do it. And she, very supportive. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to move the way I have been able to.
Yeah, you're another sister I'd like to meet. I collect people along the way, right? When I feel your soul, Evan will connect us. But I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. Tell them one more time about the summit and how they can register. Yes, the Justice, Reentry, and Healthcare Virtual Summit taking place October 5th through the 9th. You can register at FIGHT.org. All right, my sister Asata. I feel like we're sisters. Yes. Asata Thomas, Director of the Institute for Community Justice. Thank you so much for calling in. We'll get as many people as possible to register. Myself will register for at least a couple of those sessions. And it was a pleasure talking to you, okay? And you as well. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome, my sister. Have a great one. You, sis. Yes, all right, bye-bye. 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 That was a good conversation. I really enjoyed talking to her. Thank you, Evan Burton, for doing that and making sure that we have a conversation about the Virtual Prison Summit. They have quite a lineup from October 5th to October 9th. You can register on fight.org, and the link to register is there. You have to register for each webinar separately, and I think this is going to be really good. So for those of you who are passionate about criminal justice reform, please take a look and register to see what you'd like to learn or what you'd like to offer in terms of solutions for people. Jacob from Alney.
Hey, my sister, peace be unto you.
Peace be unto you, my brother. What's up?
Oh, it's all good. Hey, look, this talk, what y'all talking about, boy, sisters got it going on.
Listen.
I love when I heard y'all say, what we gonna do?
Yes.
We always be talking and everything, but what is the action after the talk, after the meeting, what we gonna do, One thing I want to say, I didn't know that you were an excellent writer. I was looking through the paper, and I said, Sister Anda, what? I did not, you're a little humble because you ain't letting us know all that you do. I did not know that you were a writer like that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's all good. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Sisters got it going on. But, when y'all was at the point of, you were saying, like, what we going to do?
Yeah.
I know you've heard this phrase, right? It says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? And it says about us, and we always, I ask the question, what is our part in this thing? And I'm not talking about paradise to heaven after we die. I'm talking about on this earth.
Yes.
I used to be in the construction, right? And them buildings didn't get put up by just talking and praying. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It took some life, like Liberty 1 and 2.
Yes.
Between Liberty 1 and 2, 4 men lost their lives, and there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to put that up. Men had to work, man, to get them buildings up. And I put it like this. If we're told that we have to build the kingdom of God on this earth, why we always think that God going to do it? We didn't sit around and wait. We didn't sit around and wait on God. Said, we need a building, God, right? And we just stood there on Market Street there, and the buildings just popped up. No, that didn't happen. We had it in our heart because when they questioned Jesus the Christ, peace be on him, about the coming of the kingdom, he pointed to his chest where his heart is. And he said, behold, the kingdom is within you, right? It's within. When we get the kingdom of God there, and it's coming, I tell people right now, one thing you could do to start with building the kingdom of God on this earth is vote.
Yep.
Vote out the evil one.
Yep.
Vote out the liar.
But Jacob, on top of that, on top of voting, become more engaged and involved with what's going on in your community. We're sitting around waiting for government to fix certain things, like our streets. My street, it wasn't the nastiest street, but it wasn't the cleanest, and I became the example. Walked outside and started picking up the trash. My neighbor across the street, Myra, started picking up the trash. The people down the street started picking up, and everybody started working together. Yeah. It starts with us. My street is now the cleanest in the darn place. We can do it.
And that's what we should strive for, to race each other towards good.
Yeah.
But, yesterday, you speak about that. I was in a parking lot in Cheltenham, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know a young black guy pulled in? He emptied, it must have been one of the big trash bags full of trash. Do you know he threw napkins and everything? He just threw it out of his car just like he was supposed to do that.
Did you say something to him, Jacob?
Oh, you know I had
Okay, because I do it every time I see it happen. They look at me like I'm crazy. I was like, get up. No, don't you. Sometimes I pull up next to them and say, don't you dare.
He had done it. I seen this stuff blowing by. I mean, he was throwing stuff. It must have been a big trash bag worth of stuff.
Crazy.
And he was in a public parking lot. And I'm imagining, you my brother, imagine a Trump worshiper looking at you as a black man doing that. And what are they going to think about your ignorance? Because that was total ignorance, bro. And I went over to him and I tried to be nice. And I started picking it up. I said, bro, you know that ain't right, right? I said, look at that can right over there. And then he said, oh, that's right, OG. And he got out and helped me pick up most of it, you know.
Yes.
But again, we got to start thinking better for our own community. And this is a grown man. I mean, he was a young man, but he was grown. And what makes you think that it's okay to do that? And
but you taught him through your example, though. You see how you got him to do that? You didn't cuss him? You just, come on now. Let's work this through.
When I came over to him, I was picking it up. I said, bro, this ain't cool, man. And then I gave him to talk about, what if a white Trump person saw you doing? They're going to call you the worst N-word at the dinner table that they can. And they're going to try to justify that's why we're treated the way we are. So, again, we try to use everything as a teachable moment. But, again, we got to start doing stuff, and we got to stop waiting. God already gave us our directions in Scripture. All we got to do is start following the direction and doing. We pray, but then we got to do
follow it up with some action.
Yeah, faith without works
is dead. Thank you so much, my brother.
Bye-bye.
All right, honey. Bye-bye. Wow, that was a good conversation. That's a good show today. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
It's Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on WordRadio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Former Vice President Joe Biden.
We have to let people know we're listening, that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
But they're not getting a chance now.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have a real plan for police reform.
It means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about giving the United States Department of Justice the subpoena power to investigate systemic police misconduct.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to change that. I really mean it. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Want the latest in Word swag?
Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
Hello.
Hey, you've been on my mind, so I'm just calling to check in.
Oh, we're holding up well here in Pennsylvania. Just trying to stay safe and figuring out if we should vote in person or by mail. We like going to the polls.
Yeah, you never miss an election.
And you know we're not missing this year either, and neither should you. But which way is the safest?
Well, remember that valuable information you got from AARP about COVID-19? Mom even had me read it.
Yeah, that was good info.
AARP has up-to-date voting information for 50-plus voters in every state. It's right there at aarp.org/election2020.
Oh, I got it. aarp.org/election2020. I love having the answers before your mama.
Pops, you know what happens when you try to show out.
Yeah, you probably right about that.
This is Word Radio.
96.1 FM.
And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. As we wait for our next guest to call in, Mike and I are talking about the election. Mike is my producer, by the way. We're having a good old time over here. And, you know, my friends are like, look, we apply for the mail-in ballots, but right about now, considering that these folks want to throw out all those mail-in ballots, we're going to put on all our stuff. We're going to put on our hazmat suit, put on our masks, carry our Lysols, and we're going to go vote in person. So there are people who are out here, despite COVID, deciding that they're going to vote in person because they want their vote to count. And so I was telling Mike, you know that song, Get Here? You can reach me by caravan, cross the desert like an Arab man. Alita Adams. I don't care how you get here, just get here if you can. Come on, that's what we're going to do. We're going to vote. And we're going to mail ballots. We can do whatever we want to do, but we're going to vote. I saw something on social media from Claire Nelson. She says, good afternoon, Andrea. Free food will be distributed by the Church of the Holy Apostle and the Mediator at 51st and Spruce Streets. The dates are October 1st, October 15th, and October 29th from 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Please bring your shopping carts to take home your food. So that's great. Good stuff. I see one of my guests is calling in. Okay. I know Bernita. We're still waiting on our ballot too. Kendrick, good Monday afternoon, Word family. Great show so far. Black people are doing too well. What does that mean? I don't even know. I don't know what you're talking about, Kendrick, but I don't know what they're talking about. Because after they burned down Black Wall Street, and very few of us are, making strides in terms of generational wealth. But, honey, we are way behind the 8th ball. And so we have to continue to help each other. Is my guest on? Yes. Is Clive on? Not yet. Okay. Well, there we go. That might be Clive. And so my next two guests are, wait until you hear this. Is that him? So wait until you hear this, because there's so much going on out here, and I want us to we have to get outside of ourselves and stop thinking about, Mike I don't know who Mike is talking to. Is that Clive? Yeah. Okay. Mike doesn't know. Mike doesn't have an inside voice. So as he's talking to the people I'm like, Mike, put your voice down. We can hear you over here. And he's cracking up. This is a story that I want you all to pay attention to, listen intently, and let us decide what we're going to do. CJ, Clive Thompson Jr., is 23 years of age. He is a DACA recipient and a child of 2 immigrant parents currently living in Sanctuary. He attends Columbia University in New York studying film. Clive's long-term goal is to amplify stories through fiction storytelling as a film director. He would like to see more films with Black leads. Clive's current goal is to inspire as many people as he can with his own story. Additionally, he hopes to one day create a nonprofit that provides funds and assistance to students who are also immigrants. Anita Lewis Thompson is a mother and a wife first. She was born and raised in Jamaica. She attended Cumberland County College, where she studied nursing. She also has a certification for medication delegation from Rutgers State University. Currently, she organizes communities by bringing folks together with delicious Jamaican food. Through her events, she educates attendees on what it's like to be a Black immigrant living in a sanctuary church in Philadelphia. She describes herself as an individual who has strong feelings towards caring for others, which she developed from her Christian beliefs. In her leisure time, she enjoys shopping and road trips with her family. Clive, CJ, and Anita Thompson, are you there?
We are here.
Good afternoon. So this, it's going to take a little bit in me not to cry, because, Miss Onita, I am Jamaican by birth. And I don't know if Clive told you, so you were sent my way through Khaki Evans when you were at another church, and they were talking about your family and what was going on there, and I reached out to ask if you'd be willing to be interviewed, and your son, your 23-year-old son, who is the same age as one of my children, responded to me. He and I talked briefly, and I decided that we should have a conversation about this. So most people don't understand what it is to live in sanctuary. A lot of people don't know what it means to be a DACA recipient, and a lot of folks don't understand what it means to live in plain sight in the shadows, because you're trying to live here in these United States, you know, openly and freely and clearly. So I'm going to start with your son, if you don't mind. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay. So Clive, welcome to The Source, son. How are you?
I'm good.
You're good. So tell us your story. How did you and I end up having this conversation? What's going on, what you want people to know? And explain to them what a DACA recipient is, sir.
Okay, so I found out.
Turn down your radios, please. Okay.
Okay, so I found out about you through the email that Bill sent. Last week I spoke with Anton and Claudette on their political Zoom. They were supporting me in my endeavors of college. And, you know, that's how we connected. You reached out to Bill, and then that way, and then I emailed you, and then, you know, we spoke from there.
Yes, yes. So what is your story, sir? Tell the WURD listeners, what is your story, and what do you want them to understand about where you are right now?
Well, let me start. 2 years ago, my family ended up living in a sanctuary church after this administration.
Are you on speakerphone, Clive?
I am.
I'm going to ask you to put it up to your ear, because there's a feedback in and people are trying to listen to your story.
Okay, apologies.
And that's a problem.
Is that better?
Oh, much. Much better. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. So 2 years ago, my family began living in sanctuary because the administration decided that they wanted to deport them after years of living in the country. During that time, I began working in the factory to help keep the house while my parents were living in the sanctuary church. I stopped from school and, you know, was just focusing on my family, because to me, you know, family is the most important thing. And as Jamaicans, that's basically how we grow up, you know, having very strong family ties. And during that time, it was very stressful, and I became, I don't know, just kind of dissatisfied with where I was with my life, and not being in school, and just feeling like I had nowhere to go. But, you know, I had really great parents, and they're like, no, you know, you need to keep pushing on and continuing. And they're saying this to me while, you know, they're living in a church.
So for 2 years they were living in a church?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So after a while, I just, you know, continued to pursue my goals to finding a good university. And I applied to Columbia University and got in.
So what is it like to be, so how did you become a DACA recipient?
So the Obama administration created the deferred action for childhood arrivals. So based on if you were a certain age when you came to the United States, you could stay and work. With that, it allowed me to, I got that when I was in high school. It allowed me to work and, you know, pay for college and things like that. But as a DACA recipient, it's really just work authorization. We still don't have the same
freedoms and rights. Yes.
Right. For instance, I don't get financial aid. I'm not eligible for loans without some sort of cosigner that's a United States or permanent resident.
Right.
And I'm not applicable to many scholarships. There's like a handful for DACA recipients.
So how are you going to Columbia, if you don't mind my asking? That college is incredibly expensive.
Right. Currently, I'm crowdfunding. The program I'm in.
Crowdfunding. Wow.
Yes. The program I'm in they don't really have much financial assistance for the students already, so it makes it even harder. So I decided to reach out to people who were very helpful to my family, and people have just been really giving and just opening their arms and bringing me in and saying, hey, I'm willing to help you out.
Right. Okay. I know this is not an easy conversation to have. Let me talk to your mother for a second. Anita, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Ma'am, how did you go from working to finding yourself into sanctuary? Explain to the people, because what I'm trying to do is to get folks to come from a place of empathy, because we talk a lot about these things and don't know what we're talking about. So explain to people how you went from the position that you were in to finding yourself in sanctuary so that they understand.
Okay, so let me go back a little bit so people can understand like the full story. So I ran from Jamaica in 2004 after a gang member murdered my brother and threatened our lives.
Right.
So I came to the United States on a B1, B2 visa that I have, and applied for asylum, which was my right to do. So what happened was I could not prove some paperwork that the judge had asked for, like I didn't have it in hand, so they denied my asylum case. However, 180 days, once me and my children was here and applied for asylum, I got work authorization and I started to work, send myself to college, and this was out of pocket. And as you know how Jamaicans are, we do 3 and 4 jobs to take care of ourselves and our children. So we was doing that. The judge denied my case, as I mentioned, and then turned us over to ICE. Meaning they can do 2 things. They can deport you, or if you're a good standing citizen, they can say, all right, since you've been working and paying your taxes and do what is right, you can stay here. And so all of those years, me and my husband was working, sending the children to school, 2 or 3 jobs, helping ourselves and, so forth. So once the new administration came in 2016, everything had changed, and in 2018 they asked us to just come in and asked us to buy a one-way ticket to go back to Jamaica. Of course I couldn't do that. I could not go back to what I was running from, and I could not be separated from my family, because what they don't tell you, what a lot of people doesn't know, is that if you leave and you go back, you have a 10-year bar to never able to come back, and you cannot go back to what you was running from in the first place.
Right.
So while in sanctuary, I'm telling you, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Sanctuary is one of the hardest things you can do. But when standing up for your family and standing up for what you know is right and want to be with your family, I think I still make the best decision and to fight my case moving forward. So, before sanctuary, me and my husband, we worked. We bought a home in New Jersey. We sent our children to colleges, and all of that stuff. My older children, not CJ, because of course we was in sanctuary and we just couldn't, there's no way to help him go to school.
Right.
So while here in sanctuary, and we're still in sanctuary right now, my oldest daughter had become a citizen since we're in sanctuary for the 2 years, and did file a petition for me and my husband, and that first part of the petition has been approved.
Okay.
However, the reason why we cannot leave sanctuary, we still have the deportation order. If that deportation order lifts, then we were able to adjust status because we got the I-130 approved. And I-130 means that if you have a family member like a child who can file for you, then you will be able to adjust status. So we have that from USCIS that we can adjust status here, but we're still waiting on the courts to say, okay, you're a good standing citizen. All the years you was here, you've been working, you has never broken the law, and so you'll be able to stay here. So that's what we're waiting on. But while in sanctuary, what I do to occupy my time and to try to move forward is to try to, like, before the pandemic, I would cook meals every fourth Friday of the month, and I would take a donation for the delicious cooked Jamaican food, and I would educate, like, people of what's happening to us. And it's not that we did anything criminal, or it's nothing like that, you know, because sometimes as soon as you hear, like,
they think it's something criminal that you did,
they think that, and this is not the case. And you try to teach your children, you know, moral characters and said, listen, if you work hard, if you do what's right, you will succeed, because working hard, you know, especially in America, you can be successful, and we all still know that, regardless of what's happening and who is in power, we know that America is still the best place on earth, and we know that you can succeed. It's just getting that chance to be so and not to be separated. So I really want folks to know that the Thompson family, we work hard, 2 and 3 jobs. We never wanted handouts, but unfortunately we are in a position right now where we cannot help our son that, you know, got into Columbia University. And, you know, the public out there, we are just asking for help. And we never had to ask for help before, but now we are in the position where he needs help to go to college. And
Miss Anita, let me ask you this. Sanctuary simply means that you go and take shelter in a place where ICE cannot come to get you, correct?
Right. So the thing is, it's considered as a sensitive location for ICE.
Right.
So churches, hospital, and schools are sensitive locations. So we take sanctuary here, and we said to ICE, this is where we are. So we are not typically hiding. We are in a safe location. Yes.
Wow. And so describe to people a day in the life of living in sanctuary.
Oh, my God. It's just like taking it one day at a time. As I said, I would not wish this on my worst enemy, because you're thinking like, I think, even when I'm 48 years old, I think of myself as young, strong, and black. And I think that, you know, we can go out there, we are able to work, and just every day just sitting behind the walls of the church, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. You would not, it's a jail without the handcuffs. You know what I mean? Because you still cannot go out there and work and be productive, and then you start to feel like you're worthless. Why am I sitting behind the walls of the church and able to take care of my family?
How many children do you have?
I have 5 children.
You have 5 children. So at least one was able to file the petition for you and your husband. How was your husband dealing with all of this? How is this, you know, as men, you know, I can only imagine what's been going through his head, because, you know, you want to be able to provide for your family and do what you need to do. How has he been managing with being in sanctuary?
I watch him go from this smiley, happy person, loves to know that he can give his children allowance, he can buy his wife something, if I want something he can buy it, to I don't have money. So it's a hard, sad time, to be honest.
Wow. I'm working hard here, because, you know, I as an immigrant from Jamaica, I've often had conversations with people with very similar stories who have worked their whole lives, right, trying to be here, to be documented. You're not hiding. Someone just texted me and asked, what is the status of your house? Do you still have it, or did you have to give all of that up?
No, so what happened is, when I keep these fundraisers and with the help of the children, I'm able to still keep it.
Good. So you'll have somewhere to go back to when all of this is resolved, because we have to believe that it's going to be resolved in some way, shape, or form. So how much is it per year to go to Columbia University?
It is about $75,000.
Did you? You just took my breath away. $75,000. Okay.
Yes.
And so a year, A year. And are you doing it remotely right now?
Yes.
CJ?
I mean, I'm on campus, but everything's on Zoom.
Okay. Do they understand the situation that you're in right now as a DACA recipient and that your family is in sanctuary?
I'm trying. But,
tell me what you mean when you say you're trying.
I've spoken to at least 2 handfuls of people. I've emailed, and I have a petition. I'm trying to email the head of admissions and everything, but I'm still coming up shorthanded. I get the common, we only have this much, and when speaking to advisors, but they get a lot of people with stories, not as unique as mine, but it's just trying to speak to someone is really difficult, but I'm still trying.
Okay. Okay. What do you and your mother want people to know, and how can they help? Because there is a large immigrant population in Philadelphia, right? Miss Anita, I'm sure you know. The Jamaicans are all over the place, right? The Haitians, and it doesn't just have to be the Jamaicans. The Haitians, the Bajans, they're all everywhere. The Trinidadians, my riding cycling club is led by a Trinidadian man. What can, if we can't get regular help from the government, what can we do to help you? Where can we go to donate and to help you? Because as we say in Jamaica, every bickle make a buckle, right? And so if we can each put our bickle together to support you, because if I only have $10 and I send you my $10, but there's 100 more of us with $10 that can help you and Clive, what can we do to support you?
So the first thing I want to say, and I don't have the number right in front of me this minute,
okay.
But I can provide it later.
Okay.
I would like, and I know people can Google this, I would like everybody to call the head of ICE and ask them to join motion, right? That's the most help I think I really, really need, and join motion to reopen my deportation, and so that I can adjust my status to a permanent resident, and I can live here and actually work for myself, and to help take care of, my family.
Okay.
The second thing is there's the GoFundMe. If you look for Juanita Thompson on Facebook, and also they can send checks to New Sanctuary Movement of Philadelphia, Peter, and the funds will come to us. So it's New Sanctuary Movement of Philadelphia, and they can do say attention Peter, and if it's check or money, they can put in the number line, the Thompson family, and we will get those funds. Okay. And as for my son, they can do the same thing, and I think my son can tell you too how to help and donate to him.
Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, because there's some thoughts that I have. I just interviewed someone who works for an organization in Philadelphia about the mass incarceration in the justice system. I think she'll be able to help you. And then I'm thinking about it now. The public defender's office just opened up an immigration deportation kind of arm. It's a small arm within the office, but there are spaces that we can figure out how to support. So hold on one second, and let me take a quick break, and then we'll come back to that piece, okay? You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Jobs,
entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources,
and financial literacy.
livelihood. the new initiative from Word Radio to connect Philadelphians to resources to help take the next steps in their professional lives. WordWorks.com features career readiness tools, entrepreneurship resources, funding opportunities, and events to expand your livelihood. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
Greetings. Join me, Brother Shamari, beginning this Monday, September 28th, for a week-long look at violence in Philadelphia. We'll have on-air conversations every day, looking at different themes such as best practices in violence prevention at a local and national level. We're going to look at African-centered and other culturally relevant ways of conflict resolution tried throughout the world. We're going to hear directly from brothers and sisters on the streets who have been impacted by violence. And we're going to do an assessment and make recommendations to our city about ways we can prevent the epidemic level of violence happening in and around Philadelphia. So don't miss it this Monday through Thursday, 4 to 7 p.m. and Friday, my normal time, 1 to 4 p.m. right here on WURD Radio, streaming live on WURDradio.com and the Word Radio app, or watch live on Word TV via Facebook. Hotep and peace.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me Clive Thompson Jr. and Onita Thompson. Onita came here to America in 2004 after her brother was murdered in the island of Jamaica, and she came and applied for sanctuary here. They gave her and her husband, her family, permission to work, gave them all the working authorization. She worked. They worked 2 and 3 jobs, her and her husband. They bought a house in New Jersey, had their 5 children. They probably came with them to America. I don't know what the story is. I'm just, talking as I go along here from what I've been told. And then they were told that they didn't have enough documentation to prove that she needed sanctuary. That's not sanctuary. I needed an asylum, some sort of paperwork, and then she was sent over. They were sent over to ICE. As a direct result, with the new administration in from 2016, they have been living in sanctuary in a church in Philadelphia for the last 2 years. Onita, is Clive your youngest son?
No,
okay.
I have a younger. Yeah,
you have a younger child. How is that child doing?
Well, he's hanging in there. He just couldn't understand, all this thing, all why, we had was to take sanctuary, and we explained to him and all that stuff. Well, he's 14 years old. He was born here in the United States. But, it was hard from, you leave and come to live in a church from your home.
So he's living in sanctuary with you?
Yes, him and my daughter, my 17-year-old daughter. Oh. They both was born here. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a lot. I have worked in school districts where I was told that it's very difficult for educators and for families, because when all of this started happening with the new administration, children would come to school and say, and I'm deliberately not naming the school districts, children would come to school and say they were afraid to come to school because they didn't know if ICE was going to pick up their parent, while they were in school. And it happened, teachers would say to me that it's happened quite a few times, right? They would get a phone call that ICE came and picked up. So I understand you're taking your your children with you and making sure that they're okay. So they're living in sanctuary too.
They are. And they don't have a chance, that's what breaks my heart the most, is how they are American, but they are still not free, because I have to take them with me and they are minor. And I don't want my children in the system knowing that we are strong and can work. And we've been, we used to work and take care of them. And, they're hurting the most. I remember my younger son was bullied in school after, children know that he was living in a church, and it's not that he don't have a home.
Right.
And he would not tell me until he got physical when they started to hit him, because he thinks he's protecting me from not telling me like this is happening because he thinks, oh, mom and dad is going through too much, and now to hear that this is happening. So, your children suffer the most, and you do this because you don't want to be separated from them, and it's hard. It's a hard road, and I would not wish this on anyone at all.
Yeah, it's wow. At least you have a little bit of a glimmer of hope, right? At the end of this tunnel, that your oldest child applied for you guys, and so you can see some hope there. How can we, Clive, do you have the GoFundMe for your college thing?
Yes. It's titled From Working in a Factory to Columbia University.
Wait. From working in a factory to Columbia University, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you just Google Clive Thompson, Columbia, it should pop up as well.
Okay. Columbia University. And if you Google Clive Thompson, it should pop up. Clive Thompson, Columbia?
Columbia.
Okay. All right. What can the diaspora here do to help you both? Let me start with you, Anita.
Yes. So, as I mentioned before, letters could write to the ICE office.
Do you have the number to the ICE office?
I don't have it with me. I think once you Google it, I think it just pops up.
Okay.
Yeah. And also, I also have a GoFundMe out there because I'm not allowed to cook as yet. I hope by next month I can cook again and get funds in like that. So you know how my name's unique. It's spelled not J but ONEITA. Yeah, Juanita Lewis. I think my GoFundMe will pop up, and it says help with 1 month bill and help with 1 month bill and lawyer fees. Okay. Because what's happening right now, I have a lawyer on my case, and I still hold like $4,000. The lawyer charged $12,000, and I managed to take my time monthly to pay it down, and it's at like I think $4,300 now, and I can't cook and get donations, so I'm just asking for help with paying the lawyer and just keep up with my mortgage and so forth.
Okay.
So that's the way where I could get help, and this is what I wanted to also let the listeners know is that even though me and my husband is married, USCIS does not take us as a couple. So anything we're talking about, if there's a fee, it's a single fee. It's not like the husband and wife. So every application is separate, and I really want listeners to understand that, because so much people from talking to people, they did not understand that it doesn't take us as a couple. Everything is individual. So if one paper costs, say, $560, it's each of us.
Yes.
So I want folks to also realize that.
Miss Anita, I have a program, a segment on my radio show called Life in the Diaspora every Thursday at 3 o'clock. And I have a woman from Sudan and from Senegal on, and they're talking about the immigration process and what it's like. The one woman, Sadie, who lives in Minneapolis, says that she and her husband are applying to stay here permanently, and that the cost of the fees are going to actually double by October 1st, right?
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
I am aware, yes.
And so, what would cost $1,200 to apply is now going to be $2,400. Like, it's a lot of money. And I believe that it's done purposefully to prevent people from, to keep people from applying, because, if you don't have the money to live, much less come up with those kinds of funds, right?
Exactly.
It's difficult. So, I mean, this is my very first time talking to you. I didn't know what your situation was. But I can tell you this. I, as a Jamaican, have been hosting cooking classes, in Zoom cooking classes, every month since COVID hit, because I was trying to find a spot. I love to cook, right? I've been cooking since I was 9. And so,
yes.
And so my very next class, I am going to teach people how to make one of our Jamaican soups, right? I was thinking about the red pea soup or the chicken pumpkin soup, right?
Yeah.
I am going to dedicate all of the funds from that class to you. I'm telling you now.
Oh, thank
because
you so much.
It's the only way I can think of that, because the people, they love the classes, they support the classes, and so whatever funds that I get from that, I'll send it to the church. I'll drive to the church because I want to meet you guys too.
Yes.
And then we'll reach out to the Jamaicans. Have you spoken to Chris Chaplin, who is the head of our diaspora here in Philadelphia?
I did spoke to him.
Okay.
I did reach out to him.
Okay. So Chris Chaplin, and then we have Karen Dunkley. Dr. Dunkley, have you spoken to her?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. There's plenty.
I know Karen Dunkley.
You spoke to Karen Dunkley. Okay. So there's lots we can do. That's just what I want you to do, Clive, is to sit still and continue to walk in hope, because you are at Columbia University. By the grace of God, of $75,000 a year, you are there, right? Your parents have been upstanding citizens in this country, and through no fault of their own, things have turned and shifted for them. I want you to this could be a film for you, literally, right? Because I think a lot of people don't understand what it's like to be a DACA recipient or to live here in the shadows and not, quite figure out what to do with yourself. And lots of people from across the diaspora listen to this radio show, and lots of people are American born, probably didn't know what we were talking about until we started having this conversation. And this is why I am so interested in us having dialogue beyond the basic things that we do every single day. Like, what is that? What does that mean for us? And how do we help people that are otherwise fine, upstanding citizens who have worked, bought houses, raised their children, paid their all of that, only to have the switch of a government, and then things just started to fall apart for everybody. So we're going to make sure that we get you some help. Miss Anita, I'll reach out to you after the show is over. And I'll let you know how we're going to do that. And then I'll start to ask some of the people across the diaspora how they can, to support you guys as you move forward. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Clive, it's good talking to you. Continue to uplift your parents in the light, especially your father and your younger siblings. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
I understand completely.
Okay. So we'll figure the rest of it out. You guys have a wonderful afternoon, okay?
And thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you are quite welcome. All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Oh, Lord. Oh, and Mike said, and Trump don't pay his taxes, right? It's just amazing what is going on out here and how we have to find such gratitude. I was telling my husband this past weekend, I said, listen, there's so much going on around the country. I'm going to ride myself on this bicycle into a size 2 because, it's just a lot. It's a lot, that we're talking about, that we're facing. People are not feeling comfortable. There's an election less than 40 days away. There is a debate happening tomorrow. The country is burning on one end. And there's so much happening at one time. We're trying to figure out how we're going to make it through. And then there's the nomination of a woman by the name of Amy Coney Barrett. This is written by the Washington Post by Aaron Blake, September 27th, 2020. President Trump made Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court official on Saturday, setting the stage for what Republicans hope will be a speedy but momentous confirmation to the increasingly conservative-leaning court. Please pay attention, people, please. I will, Bernita. I'll post a GoFundMe when we go to break. And that is looking more likely, particularly given that Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican Alaska, sounds as though she has an open mind about voting for Barrett, despite opposing the GOP's decision to take up the nomination in an election year. But whether Barrett is confirmed, isn't the only hugely important question here. So too is exactly how we could get to that point. And with November's election looming either shortly after or shortly before the confirmation vote, and the voters potentially being swayed by what they witness, there is plenty of pressure in both Republicans and Democrats to play their cards right. And so this morning we were watching lots of white women on MSNBC and CNN who are going knocking door to door. While the Democrats were not doing any door-to-door knocking, the Republicans are out there knocking at women, white women, saying, you got to vote for President Trump. This is what we want. And they're using this Supreme Court nomination as one of the reasons why they think he should be put back into office. In 2018, before Trump picked Brett Kavanaugh for the last Supreme Court vacancy, I argued why I thought picking Barrett might appeal to him. One of the biggest reasons, her selection could tempt Democrats into the kind of culture war that Trump craves, particularly by inviting attacks on her religiosity. Barrett got passed over that time, but the argument definitely holds today, particularly with Trump's own re-election looming. When Trump nominated Barrett to a federal appeals court seat in 2017, Democrats repeatedly raised concerns about how her Catholic faith might inform her jurisprudence. By the way, if she gets onto the Supreme Court, there'll be 5 Catholics Supreme Court justices. Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, at one point told Barrett that the dogma lives loudly within you, and that's of concern. Senator Mazi Hirono of Hawaii, who was on the television today, and Richard Durbin of Illinois, but all 3 Democrats, also raised the topic, with Durbin pressing Barrett on what her definition of an Orthodox Catholic was. The question from here is whether Democrats are tempted to go down this road again, and just how hard they go after Barrett, period. While Barrett is seen as a potentially divisive pick, she was divisive enough that Senator Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is also running for his own re-election seat, told Trump in 2018 that others would be more easily confirmed that divisiveness could lure Democrats into overreaching in opposing her, which is what some argue Feinstein et al. Did in 2017. The New Yorker's Jeffrey Toobin argued Saturday that Barrett's 2017 confirmation hearings effectively set the stage for what we see today, calling Feinstein's line of questioning so incompetent, so inept, so apparently religiously discriminatory that Amy Coney Barrett became a hero to religious conservatives. Pay attention, y'all. Democrats and their base are apoplectic that Republicans are moving forward with the nomination, despite saying in 2016 that the winner of the presidential election should be allowed to make such a nomination. But being out for blood isn't always the best strategy. Reporting suggests that Democrats are planning to focus more on what Barrett's ascension to the Supreme Court could mean practically on issues such as Obamacare. But Democrats' performances at these hearings haven't always been confidence-inspiring. And the other big issue likely to come up is Roe versus Wade, given how pivotal Barrett could be on that issue. And it's difficult to see how that comes up without drifting into discussion of her faith. There will be plenty of pressure from the base to do something, anything, to prevent a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court. Control of the Senate for the next 2 years is one thing. Control of the nation's highest court, which is increasingly vital in a time of constant congressional gridlock for decades to come, is quite another matter. Democrats don't have the final say, though, with Republicans having 4 votes to spare right now, and Barrett's confirmation looking very likely. And Republicans will be hopeful that Democrats' efforts to push back on a mother of 7 children could harm them in the ballot box. They hoped that that would be the case in 2018 after the Kavanaugh hearings, though, and Democrats still won the House. But some suggested it might have helped the Republicans win or hold conservative-leaning Senate seats. When we come back, I'm going to invite you to call in and give me your opinion on the things that we've been talking about, and I will put in the link to the GoFundMe for the Jamaican family in Sanctuary. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
He knew. Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was months ago, and he lied about it. Just listen.
Now it's turning out it's not just old people, Bob. Just today and yesterday, some startling facts came out. It's not just older young people, to plenty of young people.
Donald Trump knew as early as February just how deadly COVID was before anyone even died, and he did nothing about it. His indifference cost tens of thousands of black lives.
It goes through air, Bob. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than even your strenuous flus.
Nearly 200,000 dead. 1 in 5 are black. This virus is literally killing us, and Trump did nothing to stop it.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you, I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down because I don't want to create a panic.
Too late, Mr. President.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
He's back.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
In times like these, we have to stay connected.
At a brand new time.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
I'm excited that Keeping It Real returns to WURD.
Keeping it real
with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
This program is pre-recorded.
No phone calls, please.
Keep it locked to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. WURDradio.com.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the mattress man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Mike and I are trying to find an address for you guys so that you can do what you need to do. There's something I want to read and say it's for. I'm putting something in the social media page, in the Philadelphia page, the WRD TV page, so that people can see what they can do. Claire, you're quite welcome. Claire says, thank you, Andrea, kindly for advertising the free food distribution. Good show. Michelle Pugh say, to find out status of your mail-in ballot, call Philadelphia County 215-686-1590 or online at www.votespa.com. That's how my husband and I found out about our status. Bernita says she's still waiting on her ballot. We are still waiting on ours too. So yes, here we go. So if you want to talk to me, please call in 215-634-8065. I have a little bit of time. I need my Tyrones, my Woodies, my Maurice from North, my Maurice from South. Everybody that normally calls in to talk to Mother. I want to read something to you. It's, I'm an avid reader. Jacob outed me as a writer, been quite a writer too. And somebody heard me on NPR over the weekend. I stay largely quiet about a lot of the things that I do. I talk about them after they're done, for the most part. And it's just, I think it's a Jamaican thing in me. We were raised to just do the work. And if you can believe it, my parents have no idea half the things that I have done. They just don't. People will call them and say, did you know Andrea? Nope, she didn't tell us. But that's the way we were raised, to just be humble and do what we need to do. So there was, who wrote this? The Washington Post again. The Washington Post and the New York Times are giving this president angina because they're doing all sorts of research into his family background and digging up some things. So just so you can understand the president that we have in office today, I want you to understand this. Donald Trump, facing financial ruin, sought control of his elderly father's estate. The family fight was epic. It was basically taking the whole estate and giving it to Donald. Trump's sister said in a secretly recorded video. So I'm going to read parts of this to you. Donald Trump was facing, it was written by Michael Kranish, September 27, 2020. The Washington Post, they're all over this. I'm trying to tell you. Donald Trump was facing financial disaster in 1990 when he came up with an audacious plan to exert control of his father's estate. His creditors threatened to force him into personal bankruptcy, and his first wife, Ivana, wanted $1 billion in a divorce settlement. Donald Trump said in a deposition. So he sent an accountant and a lawyer to see his father, Fred Trump Sr., who was told he needed to immediately sign a document changing his will per his son's wishes, according to depositions from family members. It was a fragile moment for the senior Trump, who was 85 years old and had built a real estate empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He would soon be diagnosed with cognitive problems, such as being unable to recall things he was told 30 minutes earlier or remember his birth date, according to his medical records, which were included in a related court case. Now, these records and other sources of information about the episode obtained by the Washington Post revealed the extent of Fred Trump Sr.'s cognitive impairment and how Donald Trump, his son's effort to change his father's will, tore apart the Trump family, which continues to reverberate today. The recent release of a tell-all book by the president's niece, Mary L. Trump, and the disclosure of secret recordings of her conversations with her aunt reflect the ongoing resentment of some family members toward Donald Trump's attempt to change his father's will. So what's happening with the American people happened within his family. He did this to his family, right? With the election weeks away, the documents and recordings provide more fodder for Mary Trump's continuing efforts to see her uncle defeated by Democrat Joe Biden, whom she said she would do everything in her power to elect. Trump's sister, Mary M. Trump Barry, was recorded by her niece in January 2019, expressing outrage over her brother's efforts to change the will as their father's mental capacity was declining. Dad was in dementia, Barry said. Barry said that when she was asked by her father in 1990 to review the proposed changes, she consulted with her husband, John Barry, an attorney familiar with estate law who died in 2000. I show it to John and he says, holy crapoly. It was basically taking the whole estate and giving it to Donald, he said. Barry helped convince her father to reject her brother's effort. As a result, Donald Trump didn't talk to his sister for 2 years. During one of several conversations her niece recorded, Mary Trump recently provided the tapes to the Washington Post. In other taped conversations referring to immigration policy and other matters, Barry said President Trump has no principles and you can't trust him. In a brief telephone conversation, Barry said, at this point, I am not making any comment. Underlying the episode about the will was a troubling question. Did Donald Trump try to take advantage of his father at a time when the senior Trump was in the elderly stages of dementia? In a deposition, Donald said he had no idea his father was suffering from dementia, saying his father was very, very sharp at the time. But medical records and accounts by 2 of his siblings indicate the elder Trump's cognitive disabilities were already declining. Donald Trump's deposition from 2000 inheritance case. There's a question. Do you recall your father suffering from any memory lapses in 1991? The answer was no. Do you recall him being diagnosed as having senile dementia in 1991? The answer, no, I don't. Do you recall him exhibiting any confusion in 1991? Answer is no. Then, within months of Trump's effort to amend his father's will, Fred Trump Sr. was formally diagnosed with early stages of dementia, according to medical records that were disclosed in a 2000 court case brought by Mary Trump and others seeking a larger inheritance from the elder Trump's estate. In that case, Donald Trump and 2 of his siblings were deposed. Why am I reading this? If you want to know about somebody's present and future behavior, you got to know about their past behavior. Mary Trump on Thursday filed in a New York court against Donald Trump, Barry and the estate of their brothers Robert Trump, alleging that they, as executors of their father's estate, later deceived her about the true value of what she believed she could have inherited. Her complaint said she was fleeced out of tens of millions of dollars or more. Mary Trump said in a statement to the Post that Donald Trump's initial effort to change his father's will when his mental state was in decline is still relevant today because it shows he put his own interests above even those of his own family members. The state of Fred Trump Sr.'s mind, as it turned out, would prove to be a crucial factor for his son, and the legal dramas over the estate escalated. By the end of 1990, Donald Trump's financial problems were spiraling out of control, and he increasingly looked to his inheritance as his salvation. Can you imagine? It is a very bad period of time, and if for any reason I was not able to come out of this well, then it would be giving me a trust to protect the money that he would inherit, Trump said in a deposition he gave in the 2000 inheritance case, explaining why he came up with the idea to amend the will. His casino empire at the time was in severe financial distress, according to a report by New Jersey regulators. The Trump shuttle airline was losing millions of dollars per month, and his latest project, his crown jewel called the Taj Mahal, was cannibalizing business from other casinos. Trump convinced bankers to give him a $100 million line of credit. He told the Post in an interview for the biography, Trump revealed. But the possibility of personal bankruptcy still loomed, and he pleaded with more bankers, one of whom he later told the Post that they gave him a financial lifeline only because if he went down, they might go down, thus was worth keeping alive. Still, the debts kept mounting, and Trump relied even more heavily on the man who had repeatedly bailed him out, his father. Fred Trump Sr. sent a lawyer to one of his son's casinos with a check for $3.35 million, which paid for 670 gambling chips worth $5,000 apiece, according to New Jersey regulators' report. The maneuver funneled desperately needed cash into the casino. See how the rich do it, people? But it still wasn't enough. A string of 6 corporate bankruptcies would follow. And fearing that his future inheritance would be seized, Donald Trump came up with his plan for an amendment known as a codicil to his father's will. While Trump had been expected to be the lead executor in an initial version of the will, this amendment would have broadened that role, according to Mary Trump's account in her book. She wrote that the codicil would have put his siblings at Donald's financial mercy, depending on his approval for the smallest transaction. The codicil, reported by the New York Times in 2018 as a part of its investigation into the family's tax avoidance measures, also was designed to protect Donald Trump's inheritance from efforts to seize it by creditors and Ivana, with whom he was having a divorce at the time. Trump's uncontested divorce from Ivana was finalized in December of 1990, with cruel and inhumane treatment by Donald Trump cited as the grounds. The division of property was then to be decided. Ivana had originally asked for $2.5 billion, half of Trump's estimated worth, but his lawyers said her prenuptial agreement allowed her to receive less than 1% of his assets. A private settlement eventually would be reached. And so she said, Ivana Trump said in a brief telephone conversation with the Post, "I have no idea what Donald Trump and his father did. I have no comment." I'm going to continue reading this when we get back, because to understand our President of the United States and why these elections matter so much, we have to go back into the past to see. And too many times we get on these social media sites and we read sound bites, and we don't delve deeply into what is going on out here, so that it makes sense to us, right? So we can understand what is it and who is it that we are voting for, and why these legislative and judicial situations matter beyond voting for a president. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
New Voices for Reproductive Justice is registering Black women and their families in Philly to vote. The general election is on November 3rd. You can register to vote online at rock.vote/newvoices. That's rock.vote/newvoices. The deadline to register is October 19th. If you need assistance registering to vote, visit newvoicesrj.org.
Hi, I'm Melanie DeBose. I'm a single mom and I run a nonprofit. I don't have a lot of free time, and the safety of my family and employees always comes first. That's why I'm voting by mail this year.
Whether you're a Pennsylvania senior, essential worker, or simply someone who needs more flexibility to vote within a challenging schedule, voting by mail allows you to make your voice heard at the ballot box on your schedule while protecting your family's health. You can turn your mailbox into a ballot box by simply visiting votespa.com on your computer or any mobile device to request your mail-in ballot. With November 3rd around the corner, it's more important than ever to request your mail-in ballot today.
This year, I'm voting by mail because it's safe and easy. Voting on my time while keeping my family and employees safe.
We're all in this together, and voting by mail gives you the power to make your voice heard. So sign up at votespa.com or return your mail-in ballot application to your county election office today. Paid for by Power Interfaith.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
Undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
Lifting every voice
Till earth and heaven ring.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining me, I am reading an article written by the Washington Post about Donald Trump and how he went against his own father to gain control of his estate because he was falling deeply into debt, fought his siblings, and on and on. It says here that Trump and his brother Robert led an effort against a challenge to the will made by Mary and her brother Fred. I mean, they've been fighting, right? Their brother Fred III, saying that they would withdraw medical care that was being provided by a Trump company to Fred III's son William, who had cerebral palsy. Donald Trump told the New York Daily News that after he was sued by Mary and Fred III over the will, he decided, why should we give him medical coverage? That's his own nephew, right? At the time, his uncle Robert Trump reported to the neurophysiological examiner that his grandfather's memory had been in notable decline for the past 2 years. This was the same man who swore at his deposition, as did his brother and sister, that his father was mentally fit at the time he made his will. In the end, Mary and Fred III settled the inheritance fight and signed confidentiality agreements, but Mary said this year she wasn't bound by secrecy because of what she had learned about the value of the estate. Based on records she provided to the New York Times, she said that she had been told the estate was worth $30 million when it was actually worth closer to $1 billion. This kind of money, the fallout, as it turns out, has been foreshadowed by one of Fred Trump Sr.'s advisors, whose name is not disclosed in court records. In 1991, the advisor wrote him a memo that referred to the way he was effectively disinheriting Mary Trump and her brother, suggesting that he consider giving them a more equitable share of the inheritance. The advisor wrote, "You may wish to increase their participation in your estate to avoid ill will in the future." The elder Trump ignored the advice. Nearly 30 years later, Mary Trump, still upset over the inheritance battle and deeply at odds with her uncle's political views, published her book with the title Too Much and Never Enough. And so, yeah, there's lots going on here. And so even his own siblings and family members are fighting against him because they felt like he really put them out to, as we said, throw out the baby with the bathwater and threw them out to wash. And so, let's see. I'm just looking at some of this other stuff here. All right, so then we have, it's now 3 o'clock. Wow, we're moving right along. All right. New York Times, they're talking about Trump taxes. Even though taxes on wealthy, and it's written by David Leonhardt, by the way. Even though taxes on wealthy Americans have fallen sharply in recent decades, most still pay a lot to the federal government. Ask me how I know. A typical billionaire pays tens of millions of dollars in federal income taxes each year. President Trump, however, is different. Yesterday, the Times published an investigation of his finances based on thousands of pages and documents that had not been previously been made public. They show that Trump paid no taxes in 11 of the 18 years between 2000 and 2017. In both 2016 and 2017, he only paid $750. He was able to do so because many of his businesses report losing large amounts of money, which reduces his taxable income, and because he has engaged in questionable tax practices. Even while declaring losses, he has managed to enjoy a lavish lifestyle by taking tax deductions on what most people would consider personal expenses, including residences, aircraft, and $70,000 in hairstyling for television. The investigation also found that as president, he received more money from foreign sources and U.S. interest groups than previously known. Ivanka Trump, while working as an employee of the Trump Organization, appears to have received consulting fees that also help reduce the family's tax bill. Trump is facing a series of large looming bills in the next few years, and it is not obvious how he will cover them. And I read the story earlier when I first got on the air. No particularly instinct for how much the Trump tax news will resonate with rank and file voters. Many depend on how much the Biden campaign chooses to emphasize it. There is a damaging headline for Trump that he paid only $750, which is something lacking in these sorts of stories. Joe Biden still leads. Joe Biden leads Trump by 8 percentage points nationwide, 49% to 41% in a new poll from the Times and Siena College. Polling on this presidential race has been consistent for months. Since May, Biden has led between 5 and 9 points, according to an average calculated by 35-8. He probably needs to win the national popular vote by several points to win the Electoral College. The new poll also found that 56% of voters said the next president should nominate the Supreme Court Justice to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, and 67% of voters, including 40% of Republicans, said they would support a national mask mandate to help slow the spread of coronavirus. There is a surge in child labor. Why, Jesus? School closures and economic pressures caused by the virus have thrust children into the role of breadwinner across the developing world. In India, children as young as 6 pick through trash in search of recyclables. In Kenya, 10-year-olds mine sand. Some families have sent their teenage girls into sex work. Why is there a fly in the studio making me nuts? United Nations officials estimate that at least 24 million children, and why is this? Check to see if that's plugged in, please. At least 24 million children will drop out of school worldwide as a consequence of the pandemic, and that millions could end up working. That surge in child labor could roll back recent progress in school enrollment, literacy, social mobility, and children's health. And just in case you think that that's only happening in countries across the world, happens right here in America too. In other virus developments, as more activities move indoors, there are simple ways to reduce the risk of spreading the virus. Keep windows open while the weather is still mild, and invest in a basic air filter. Millions of people in the United States could lose their job-based health insurance by the end of the year, Lord. And with a new relief bill unlikely and the Affordable Care Act in peril, the safety net is quickly fraying. Viola from Oklahoma, are you there?
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I'm good, lady. How are you?
onWURD family. I'm doing great. I'm fantastic. I can't complain about a thing.
Yes, ma'am.
But I looked at John Lewis' Good Trouble for the second time last night while I was here. And I tell you, if they want to know why they should vote, then the men need to look at that and see what has happened in the past, the young ones and whatever in between. I know that we have to make sure that we vote to vote this man out. My birthday was yesterday, and my girlfriend decides that she's going to remember. Thank you. She's going to remember my birthday because of when Donald Trump's taxes came forward. I told her,
yes.
I said, that's a nice way to remember my birthday, but she'll remember it anyway. But, you know, Good Trouble is something that everybody needs to see. I mean, it is so touching and so to the point. When you had to cut beans and have somebody ask you how many bubbles come out of a bar of soap, I mean, come on. We have to vote. They need to vote McConnell out. They need to vote. There's a man here in Oklahoma that's been in office for 53 years. He can barely speak. He flies airplanes, but he can't talk worth a dime.
Wow.
And he needs to be voted out of office over 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's ridiculous in how they became lifelong politicians.
Yes.
And mainly because of the fact that a lot of us black folks, if we put Obama in and we stood in line for good, that tells us how well we can do as far as taking control of what's necessary. And when you think about it, there was a very good talk on the young fella Crouch from TBN, Tony Evans from Texas, and Kurt Franklin and another minister there, and it was fantastic. It came up on my YouTube channel, and I listened to it, and they were talking about if you don't believe Adam and Eve was made from the dust of the earth, that's brown. Ain't nobody molded no sand or no white dirt nowhere. So therefore, the white folks don't even know that they got black blood in them, but yet they can hate us so much, but they're still part of us when you go down deep down inside. I mean, it's ridiculous, but all I want to say is I'm working at the poll that I vote at, so it's not necessary for me to put the absentee in, but I'm thankful that I'm going to be there, but the voting at the primary was not that bad, so I have no fear of going into the voting poll for the main election.
Viola, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Why do you think, and this is just you responding to me, why do you think so many people are afraid to get into good trouble? Why is it that so many people talk behind the veil about all the things that they think are wrong, but when it's time for them to step up and speak up, why are people so afraid to get into good trouble?
Because they don't want certain things about their lifestyle to change. They want to keep their friends, even though they may disagree, but they don't disagree openly.
Right.
I have 2 school friends, and 3 of us, we all have different opinions on how we look at things, but we still get along. We have voted. We have did the walk. I feel as though that my daughters and their children should be out there walking and doing some of the things that I have already done. But if the younger people are not preparing themselves to become the next politicians, where are we going to go?
Yes.
They have to be the next politicians. All of those young people that are out there marching for Breonna Taylor, I commend them, but I want to know how many of them are registered to vote.
So can I give you some good news for your good trouble? Lots of them are registering to vote. And not only are they registering to vote, they are gearing themselves up to run for office. So that's a beautiful thing. We have been having conversation with them in different parts of the country, and they are saying exactly that. People are underestimating us and spreading the news that we are not voting, but we are voting. We are talking to each other, and not only are they going to vote, they are talking about, one of those young people was my 24-year-old son. I had him in an interview last week for the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, and he said, listen to me. We're not only voting, we are voting locally, and we are paying attention to what's going on so that we know where we can step in the gap and do what we need to do. So these young people are stepping up. So it sounds crazy because, people are going, they're not voting, they're not voting, they're not voting. They're saying that they're having an issue with voting for the choices that they have, but they're going to vote. And that's the piece that I want people to understand, okay?
And that is fantastic for me to hear because with us in numbers, we can kick Donald Trump.
And that's why, Miss Viola, they're fighting so hard to keep us home, to tell us, to get rid of our votes. They understand. And the Democratic Party, for years now, has really leaned heavily on the African-American vote. Right? Because they understand that we come out and vote. And it's so interesting to me that when we lose elections and they blame black people, but we're not the only people that can vote, right? We make up 12% of the population. So why do you lean so heavily on us? That's because they're quite aware that in other cultures, they can go either Democrat or Republican. We tend to stay, in a place where, if we love you, we're going to stay there, right? No matter how badly you treat us. But even the Democrats are starting to see that is shifting and changing too, right? People are tired of the same old things. Right here in Philadelphia, I know you're from Oklahoma. Here in Philadelphia, we had the dubious distinction of being the largest poor city in the country, right? And when we tried to get people to have conversations about it, everybody's feelings are hurt. Well, why you have hurt feelings? Did we not vote and put you into office? Right? But nobody wants to get into good trouble. Everybody, we can't offend this one or we can't offend that one. What are you talking about? How do you let large segments of the population suffer to the point where we have homeless encampments out here because you don't want to offend anybody and hurt anybody's feelings? When did we get to that place? When did we get to the place where we decided that we didn't want to get into good trouble, right? So that we can help other people. Because as we can see, Miss Viola, it's all coming downstream now, right?
Yes. Yep. Andrea.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I live in Delaware, and I left Delaware last Wednesday, and I've been to Texas.
Yes, Miss Viola. I know who you are, Miss Viola. Listen.
And now I'm in Oklahoma with my aunt. So I'm having a marvelous time doing nothing.
Yes. Enjoy yourself.
I brought unsewed masks with me, and I'm going to borrow my cousin's sewing machine. She's going to bring it to me tomorrow, and I'm going to make some masks while I'm here to be able to have a supply while I'm here.
That's what I'm talking
about. You know, I'm just glad to be alive.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
My 73rd birthday, I'm just thankful that God has blessed me to be well and be healthy.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you continue to enjoy your trips across the country, because I am living vicariously through you, because my husband was like, no, not this year. And I love
had a fabulous time on the road, and just stop when I wanted to and stop where I want to. And I feel safe as long as I'm in the daytime driving. So it's been all good. But I tell you, nothing's better than living life.
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree with you. You have a good one.
I have you on Facebook.
Yes,
ma'am.
I
have my phone, but I'll put it back on Facebook once I hang up.
Yes, ma'am.
Best wishes and safety to everyone out there in my Word family.
Yes, ma'am. You have a good one, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Oh, my Lord, my Lord. All right, so I'm going back to the New York Times article. It says, what else is happening? A federal judge temporarily halted a Trump administration's order that would have blocked new downloads of TikTok in the United States, granting the Chinese-owned app a reprieve. He tried to take over that app out of anger when he had a rally, and the children applied, were all over the place on TikTok applying, say that they were coming, and nobody showed up, and it was an empty rally. And he got mad, right? And so there we are. So they're trying to take over TikTok. So let's see what comes out of that. A woman was charged with attempted murder after she drove a car into a crowd of racial injustice protesters and counter-protesters in California. A judge this morning restored Uber's transportation license in London, one of the ride-hailing company's most important global markets, where regulators have threatened to ban its car for safety concerns. A prickly, bespectacled 65-year-old man could end up being the sole bulwark between Fox News viewers and a premature declaration of victory for Trump. Wow. Well, we'll figure that out. Lives lived. The professional skateboarder Keith Hufnagel was known for his pop, the seemingly effortless way he leapt onto and over tall obstacles. After years of touring the world, he opened a store in San Francisco and grew it into a global streetwear brand. He just died at the age of 46. While I have a little bit of time to chat with you, those of you, who have been following the news, and for those of us who are constantly reporting the news, we have to, find ways to take good care of ourselves. And so when the Proud Boys movement that is particularly followed by the police departments across the country showed up in Philadelphia, this past weekend, I started getting a bunch of text messages from people who said that cyclists were attacked at the Wissahickon, the Rittenhouse trail leading to Lincoln Drive. And that trail is one that my friends and I bypass when we ride all the time. I am going to tell you all to really pay attention and be on heightened alert when you're outside exercising. The days of warm weather are coming to a close at some point because winter must come, right? We're in fall. And so if you're going to be out there exercising and doing what you need to do, pay particularly close attention to where you are and what's happening around you at all times to make sure that you're safe. This morning, a friend and I went out to ride our usual 26 miles. We did 25 point something. And a car was going by us, stopped suddenly. My husband's about to hear this for the first time. And the guy backed up and said, well, do you know how we get to Broad Street? And I looked at her and I was like, now diggity dang well, Broad Street is like, no, and you have Google. And I was on heightened alert, and I said to her, let's go. And we went sliding down the hill and went up the trail where the car couldn't follow us. And so we felt safer at that point. But, these kinds of things happen all the time. We don't know who is whom, and we can't trust everybody. And so we were gone. We hightailed it up the trail to make sure that we were safe. So if you're going to travel, please do it not alone, or you're going to exercise, and it's beautiful outside, the leaves are falling, all sorts of great things are happening, but I'm going to ask you to not do it alone. So I tell you, it seems like Donald Trump, do I have callers?
Yes, one.
Who was it?
You have Andrew from Philly.
Andrew, are you there?
Hello?
I'm here. How can I help you?
Yes,
I think you might have remembered me, but I just called to say I came in on the tail end of the conversation, so I don't know all of the subject matter, but I did hear you say about Philadelphia being one of the dirtiest cities.
Oh, no, one of the poorest cities. It's dirty, too. My
You
sister's...
know what? I respect you so much for telling the truth, and also Philadelphia doesn't have to be the dirtiest, doesn't have to be the poorest. And when they're talking about the blame game, I'm not going to get into politics, but when they're talking about the blame game, we got a Democratic governor, Democratic mayor, city council is mostly Democratic. I don't think I need to say any more. So there needs to be a lot of changes. And one thing that's wrong with the city, that's happening in the city right now, is mourning and grieving.
Yes.
So when you have 300 deaths that occurred in the city of Philadelphia, it's affecting 300,000 people.
Yeah.
Each one of those deaths is worth like 1,000 people.
Because of the families and the friends that it impacts along the right.
So just imagine this year 300, last year 300, or close to 300. So imagine how the city is feeling right now. You know, so we have to have a sense of mourning, grieving, and healing.
Yeah.
So we're starting a new program with the Bishop Peace that's going to have a 24-hour hotline for anyone that's grieving, whether it's from, I lost a son and a daughter. I lost a daughter through cocaine and fentanyl in 2017 with the overdose, and I lost my son 2019. He was shot 19 times, but 3 hit him in the torso, so he was gone. And that was a year and 3 months apart. Not too many people have been through this.
Right.
So there's nobody for me to talk to, you know what I mean? So we're starting this program so there'll be somewhere somebody can talk to. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're feeling about one of your loved ones or something like this, who are you going to call? Who are you going to talk to?
Yes.
So we're starting that also, but I commend you. I respect what you do, and I remember what you said about the 20 years that you did with the police department and stuff like that.
Yep. It's
I
a
really
lot.
respect all that.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What is the thing that you're starting? Did you start it yet?
Well, it's in the mix. One of my members said, hey, we should have a Sunshine Club. Any member pass away or something like that?
Right.
That was a letter. That was Miss Aletta. She actually said that. And we brushed over it. But once it happens to you personally, it's a whole different outlook, and you get tired of people saying, oh, I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes.
So it has to be some type of dialogue with us because the guy or the woman might be just trying to be nice to you, but you don't really want to hear that.
Right.
And when they say, oh, they're in a better place right now. How do you know where they're at? So you don't want to get angry, you know what I mean? But and this is therapeutic. You could be driving. I've drove sometimes, almost got in an accident. Their thoughts and stuff will come inside my head. I'm driving, not even thinking about them. All of a sudden, you almost crash into a brick wall.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous. It could make your body break down. Some people commit suicide. It's deep. And, we want to start that. And I want to answer one of your questions that you said, but I wasn't able to answer when I was on with the racial peace. And that was, you said, what do we do as far as the police officers, as far as disciplining and stuff like that? And the thoughts is this. Give me 1,000 police officers, right? Have them set up with the lie detector and tell them to tell the truth about how much racism and discrimination you've experienced or seen since you've been a police officer. So the word snitch has to come from setting an example yourself.
Yes.
So if you're a police officer, they should be the ones standing up against the bad police officer. I'm a civilian and doing all I can do as a civilian. But as a police officer, if I was a police officer, I would stand up against it. I would stand up against it if I seen somebody saying hot dog, watermelon, chicken bones, and stuff like that. I would, you got to stand up against it. So they're the ones that have to stand up first for this thing to change.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because a lot of them, it's a code. It's a code of silence. So some of them might have to be retired. But I would love to have my hands on 1,000 police and really interview them seriously and say, hey, you going to tell me you haven't experienced no discrimination? Oh, yeah, I experienced it, but why you didn't say anything then?
Well, you know what? They've said that they've experienced it, in my training. And one of the things that they say all the time is you have no idea. When we see it and experience it and we try to report it, our children are targeted. We are targeted. We're given the most horrible shifts. We are just, when we make a call for backup, they don't show up.
No, I understand all. I know you're leading that. I understand all of that. But what I'm leading to is this. I don't care about that. I care about standing up. Somebody got to die on the cross for it.
Well, yeah.
Just like I had to stand up and say, hold up, there's some good police officers.
Yes.
I had to take the flak of what I had to take to stand up. So you going to stand up or you going to sit down.
Talk about good trouble, right?
There's no in between.
Yes, got you.
You know, and all this stuff that you're seeing now with the athletes, the entertainers, them doing this, I don't give nobody no accolades for nothing. Do it day one. You become a millionaire day one, you should be helping the community.
Got you.
All the people in Philadelphia, that's my baby boy.
I hear.
All the people in Philadelphia that has came up off of Philadelphia, whether they're athletes, entertainers, this or that, I don't see 100 blacks that's that made it out here changing the outcomes for the inner city youth. I don't see it. I don't want to put out a lot of names and titles, but I don't see it. I don't see 100 of them walking down the street talking about the deaths and stuff that's going on inside the city. It's deep. It's corrupted.
Yeah, I agree. You know, we have to do some shifts and some changing, but I got to take a break. But thank you so much. It was so good to hear from you.
I felt bad that I didn't answer the phone call. Answer that question. You said, well, what are you doing with the cops and bad? Well, how do you discipline them? Well, like I said, they got to stand up themselves. If you stand up, then I'm right behind you.
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. You take it easy, okay?
God bless.
Peace and light. All right. Bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Want the latest in Word swag?
Check out the shop tab on WordRadio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WordRadio.com. Show the world that you're all about black.
Talk Media.
Through farmlands, cities, trails, and beaches, the Delaware River watershed provides drinking water to more than 13 million people. Imagine where we would be if we didn't protect all of our waterways, the streams, the creeks, and the rivers that run through our region. We would be without abundant wildlife, without vital ecosystems, without nature to escape to learn from. Visit watershedalliance.org to learn about river days and find yourself in nature.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Our final guest for the day is something that is near and dear to my heart. If you have not been under a rock somewhere, then you know it's something that I talk about all the time in hopes to help other people. In fact, Sincerely, Sarita sent me a message the other day saying that someone in the building, one of the guards in the building, is struggling with diabetes, and she told him that she knew someone who reversed the diabetes diagnosis, and then she asked me if I'd be willing to talk to him. So on my way out of the studios on Thursday, I stopped and I said, "Hey, you suffering with diabetes?" He said, "Yep." I said, "Well, I'm the one that reversed it." He popped up out of that chair like a bunny rabbit. He said, "No way." And so I started talking to him about how I reversed it in a year, that I'm not on medication. And so right now, Shaina, you pronounce your name Shaina or Shayana?
Shayana.
See there now, I done messed it all up. Shayana Hatchell is a diabetes educator and poet. Even as a young child, Shayana Hatchell would conjure up stories with her imagination, sharing them with anyone who would listen. She has developed her storytelling and writing quite a bit since then, but the thrill of language and creation she first discovered as a child has never gone away. Today, Shayana is a registered nurse and certified diabetes educator. Specializing in diabetes education has always been her life goal after growing up with a brother who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2002. While working towards the goal, she used poetry to help alleviate stress. Oh, wow. She found joy in rhyming her poems and became known for spoken word by close family and friends. In her years as a diabetes educator, she realized that there's a need for more educational children's books. You came to me from Mary Lou Watson.
Yes.
Yes. As I'm reading, it clicked with me. Combining her two loves, poetry and diabetes education, she has created the Shia Learns book series. These books explain diabetes and management simply and rhythmically. The first book is to be published is Shia Learns About Insulin, where we follow Shia and her parents' experience at a new onset. We hope you enjoy reading this book as much as she enjoyed writing it. Ha ha, Shayana, nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too. Hello.
Hello. So, wow, sis. Let me say this to you. According to data that I looked up in 2019, 1 in every 3 or 4 Americans are either pre-diabetic or diabetic.
Yes.
That there are millions of people right on the cusp and millions more who are diagnosed with diabetes. First of all, let me applaud you for writing a book about this, because we have adults that could read these children books, right? Who don't even, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to manage it, and they treat it as if it's a shameful diagnosis. As a direct result of that, I am openly vociferous in talking about the fact that I was diagnosed with it. It is in my family, and I was able to reverse it through diet and exercise and get off the medication, right? Talk to us about how you first became acquainted with diabetes, and then is this why you became a nurse?
Yes. So I was 12 years old when my mom picked me up from school and told me that my younger brother, who was then 9 years old, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And my family is familiar with the type of diabetes that you had, whether it be pre or type 2. You had the form of diabetes that with lifestyle modification, you can get off of all medication and you can reverse it. But type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. And so there is no reversing it. And the only treatment is to give insulin in injection form for the rest of their lives. And so when we found out that, he was in the hospital with this, my family knew nothing. And I was really excited to learn something about it. And so I was probably the most eager during our education sessions with a diabetes educator while he was at that children's hospital. And I knew in that moment that eventually I would be doing diabetes education as well. It was like a light switch clicked off when she was teaching, and I was like, this is my calling. At 12 years old, I was telling my mom, this is what I'm going to do.
You found your why. Yes.
Yes. So I was very young, but I knew that this is something that after I learned, more needed to learn, because it's very often that when a African American goes in and they find out that their blood sugars are running higher, that they automatically assume that this is a prediabetes or it's a type 2 diabetes, and don't even do the proper testing to find out if it is the autoimmune version. And so because of that, a lot of Black people are misdiagnosed early on, and this can sometimes lead to them having poor outcomes and having more complications when they get older, because they in fact did need to be placed on insulin, and instead were told just eat healthy and exercise, and that would be the resolution to the problem. And
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
I have to stop you right here, please.
Yeah.
Just bear with me for a second.
Of course.
What other testing do they need to take? If you're saying that a lot of Black people are misdiagnosed, what other testing do they need to take to find out if they were type 1 versus type 2?
So with it being an autoimmune disease, that means that the immune system attacks the cells that produce insulin inside of our pancreas, called beta cells. And so when the body decides that those cells do not belong in our body and they have to protect us from it, they produce antibodies that then lie dormant in our body and then are triggered to attack. And so there is testing that can be done, blood work that can be taken to check for those antibodies, to just be sure that that is not the type that that person has. It used to be called a child onset or juvenile onset diabetes, but we've seen as old as 45 being diagnosed with type 1. Yes, as old as 45 being diagnosed, and there have been countless people that have, passed away as a result of not getting the proper treatment for this form of diabetes.
Because they think they are type 2 and have been treating it as type 2.
Exactly.
So how would they know that it was type 1 versus type 2? Would it depend on how they responded? Like what is different there? Because we're trying to educate people. We're going to talk about the book, but I'm also trying to educate people because too many people are diabetic.
Absolutely. So the difference with type 1 and type 2 diabetes at new onset is very slight, but the symptoms may be a little bit more severe with a type 1.
Okay.
So with type 2 diabetes, you still have the cells in your body that produce insulin, okay? And so it's just the body is more resistant, and that's usually related to the types of foods that are being eaten and the lifestyle that that person has. So we see that more in your overweight and obese population. So a first sign that this could be a type 2 is, of course, weight. And also, lifestyle, what they're eating. If they're eating high-calorie, high-carb meals all the time, then that could be indicative of it being more of a type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, these kids and adults can be normal weight. They can be very thin even. And so for them, the signs can be that they get extremely thirsty. There's also frequent urination is another sign. Extremely tired and very hungry, and that person is eating, but they're still losing weight. Weight loss is the final sign. If nothing is done when those symptoms start, eventually it can lead to hospitalization because their body starts to eat at their fat for energy since they can't get it from the food that they're eating being paired with the insulin. So the onset of symptoms for type 1 are usually a lot faster and can be a little bit more severe than a type 2. However, if it's an adult, it may not be. So they could just come in and, it could be a very slow onset for someone older.
You know why I'm asking you this? And this is the clarity that I'm gaining from talking to you is a wonderful thing. I went to meet with a friend of mine who was thin as a rail, cycles all over the world in races, the whole 9 yards, right? And was diagnosed as diabetic, and she said same thing. The thirstiness, her vision was just no matter what they did, and they had such a hard time trying to control her diabetes. I'm going to talk to her when I get off the air with you, and let me tell you why. I was diagnosed about 3 or 4 months after she was, and within 3 months of taking the metformin that they gave me, I was able to wind back, and within 5-6 months, I was off the metformin, right? Diet and exercise. She is still trying to figure out her blood sugar levels. Still, like, she's taking the medication, still exercising, still thin as a rail, still, you know, and said she had lost so much weight, because everything you're describing to me about a type 1 diabetic is exactly what she's going through. And I don't think that she realizes at this particular stage that she's actually more type 1 than she would be a type 2, because she's older, right? So talking to you, you are helping me now to go back and have my friend go and have some extra testing done, which could probably save her life. So thank you for that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, no problem. That is my goal.
Yeah.
And that is the goal of the book, is that even, you know, parents will pick it up somewhere and they will see something that will have them, you know, if they see symptoms in another family member or their child, that they will go ahead and get that testing done to save a life. Absolutely.
Unbelievable. I know quite a few young people with type 1 onset diabetes never really thought about the adults. I just didn't think that after you got to a child, from child to adult, that it would be type, oh, Lord, it's too much. Okay. I have a couple of more questions for you. Sure. I'm not pushing you off the air, because this is good resources, and we're going to talk about the book. So I want to make sure that we talk about the book and how people can get access to the book. But here's my other question to you: how does someone who is a type 2 diabetic, who go from the metformin or taking the medication to insulin, is there something that they're doing incorrectly? What's happening there that instead of being on the medication, they end up on insulin?
That's a very good question. So it varies with type 2 diabetes, the level of resistance that the person has. So someone who is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, that's a very, like, broad diagnosis, and every person is a little bit different. So for you, lifestyle modification played a major role in getting you off of medication, which is great. You did everything that you could, and it's showing. For some people, they can do all of these things, but their body has become so resistant to the insulin that they're making on the inside that they simply just need help. Right. You know, it's not anything related to what they're doing wrong per se, unless they're still, of course, eating very high fat, high carb meals, and they're living a sedentary lifestyle, so they're not exercising. Then okay, then that's still related to lifestyle. But if they made modifications to their lifestyle and they're taking the metformin and they're still not seeing a decrease in blood sugars, it just means that their body simply it needs more help. And so I like to make sure that I tell people that if you need insulin, it's okay.
Yes.
You know, this is not anything that should make you feel less than or make you feel, you know, bad or worse at any point. It just means that your body is saying, hey, you're doing these things. I see that you're doing them, but I still need a little bit more help.
Yes. I love the way you describe that. Because people are still walking around in shame. Quietly, you know, I heard you say you had diabetes. I have it too. I've had it for 10. And I'm like, well, why didn't you say something? You could have possibly helped someone like me to pay attention to what I was putting into my mouth. It was my friend who said, go and get yourself checked, please. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and talk to you a little bit more. The people on Facebook are loving you too. Julie Taylor says, as a public and community health educator myself for many years, I greatly appreciated, Andrea, when you have guests on your radio program who are on the clinical end as well as professional and educators, such as the guest that you have on right now. That's very interesting that she published a book for children regarding diabetes education. I am glad that Mary Lou referred her to you. See how that worked out?
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for those kind words.
Yes, people are really, because I'm telling you, there are people that I know are reading and listening to this radio show right now who are diabetic or were told that they were on and they refuse to go to the doctor because they don't want the diagnosis, because they don't want to stop don't want to stop eating their cake. You know what I mean? And there's this shame that is attached to something that there should be no shame to, because a lot of it is in our DNA. It's made up in our DNA. you know?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second for me. I'm loving this conversation. Hold on. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WordRadio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we'll be right back after these messages.
He's back.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real with the Reverend Al Sharpton.
In times like these, we have to stay connected.
At a brand new time.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
I'm excited that Keeping It Real returns to WURD.
Keeping it real.
With the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. till midnight.
This program is pre-recorded.
No phone calls, please.
Keep it locked to WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM.
WURDradio.com.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, kind of work people more than 8 hours without overtime, kind of work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Trump spends his time golfing, while COVID-19 hits the black community hard. It's not just wrong, it's immoral. We need Joe Biden. Joe takes COVID-19 seriously and understands the economic and health impact it's had on our community. Joe will listen to the medical experts, and he will protect Obamacare. Trump, he won't even wear a mask. Request a ballot now. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it. Paid for by Ask Me People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AskMePeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on Word Radio. Streaming live on WordRadio.com and the Word Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you are just joining us, I have a fascinating guest on by the name of Shayana Hatchell. I hope I'm saying your name properly. The Jamaican in me, I'm telling you, some days I see and don't, it's craziness. She's a diabetes educator and poet, and she wrote a series of children's books, which is why she came on the air. But I'm telling you, she's so good. People are still talking about her on social media. So someone just asked, is neuropathy a diabetic? What does that mean?
Diabetic neuropathy, that can be a chronic complication or complication of having blood sugars higher for long term. It basically it means that the nerves are starting to have basically die. I don't know how else to make it sound any better. And so there's a decrease in feeling and sensation. Specifically, it usually starts in the toes and the fingers and the hands.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why when people say that their toes and their fingers are numb, and that's why when my doctor asked me, she says, "Oh, you've got all your feeling." I'm like, "Listen, I'm not playing with y'all in these Wakandan streets. I'm going to stay healthy."
Absolutely. No, there's no way to reverse it and get the feeling back. But if the blood sugars are regulated better, it can stop it from progressing.
Yes. So Sandy Carrington, who is also a nurse, and I know her well, she said it's a bittersweet fight. No pun intended, but there are many eateries that do not offer healthy options. The disparities that blatantly exist in the African-American population is astounding. Absolutely. She said it's my daily fight, how to fight diabetes and hypertension in the underserved areas and disparate populations. Wow. How can we help, your brother was the impetus for you to getting here, and I promise you we're going to talk about this book. When I tell you, people are asking all kinds of questions, right? Oh, Julie Taylor, as her sister. Okay, Julie, thank you for letting me know that Mary Lou's your sister. She stays on top of being well informed. She really, really does. I love Mary Lou's. One day you'll have to ask her, Julie, how she and I met. But I'm back to you, Shayana, because how can we get people out of the space where it's not a stigma? Does that make sense? Where they're comfortable enough saying, this is what I have. And when they go to make to have options. So like yesterday, you know, I found out when I was sticking my finger that I can't eat white rice. So anytime I make anything with any kind of rice, I use brown or quinoa, and I only have just a spoonful of it, and I mix it with loads of veggies, right? Like kale or, raw or cooked vegetables. And that has helped to drop my blood sugar levels to the point where I can do what I need to do and eat. And I always know when my blood sugar is spiking because my vision gets a little blurry, right? Have been able to stay well as a direct result of just following, but people don't want to stick their fingers. They're afraid. Can you talk to them about that? Why is that so important to test your blood sugar levels all the time?
So the only way that you can know if what you're doing is actually working for your body and for your blood sugars is to know what they are.
Yes.
And so it's the number one way in getting right now data in the home to know if what you're doing is working. And if you see that the blood sugars are not coming down, you can immediately say, well, let me call my doctor and say, hey, we've been doing it this way and it's not working. Can we talk about other options? And so it's really important that is done. I can't emphasize that enough. Blood sugar checks can save someone's life and also save their nerves and all kinds of things.
Yes, agreed. One more question, and then we're going to talk about this book, because Lord knows we have to talk about this book. What, and it just went right out my head. Oh, Lord. What, for people who are saying that they don't want to know that they're diabetic because they want to stop eating they don't want to stop eating their cake and stuff, does being a diabetic mean you can't eat those things?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So for type 2 diabetes specifically, where we do more of a lifestyle modification, it's the same lifestyle change that anyone who is trying to have a healthier lifestyle, be it that they're trying to lose weight or just that they want to have longevity in life. It's literally just making those lifestyle modifications so that you can continue to live a happy, healthy life. It doesn't mean you can't ever have a piece of cake, but you shouldn't be having it 2, 3, 4 times a week, right? So that's something that for all of us, no matter if you have diabetes or not, shouldn't be in our diet every single day.
Right. Agreed.
White rice shouldn't be in our diets every single day.
Yes.
No matter who you are, you really should look at, substituting with quinoa or substituting with a brown rice. Like that is the healthier way to go for all of us. And so understanding that when you come and you see a diabetes educator or you see, your provider, your doctor, it really is them suggesting if you're diagnosed with type 2 or pre, how to have a healthier lifestyle that you should be having anyway.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about the book, because now everybody wants to know how they can get this book. Where can we find the book? Tell us the name of the book again, the series.
So the name of the book series is Shia Learns, and the first book that has published is Shia Learns About Insulin.
Shia Learns About Insulin. Okay, and how can they find it?
They can go to www.shialearns.com. So www.shialearns.com.
You're going to sell a lot of these books, right?
Oh, wow.
Lots of it, because and I'm telling you, adults are going to read this book as well as the children. I've never seen so many people fighting a disease that just seems to be taking over so many lives. And at what point do we get to kidney failure? Do you have that in your books too, like how people can prevent themselves from getting kidney failure?
So this very first book just discusses the new onset process for Shia, who is a child who starts to have those symptoms of high blood sugar, and how her parents take her to the hospital. And I explain why insulin is so important. Like, why is it that something that has a small effect on the body, or a small percentage of what the body does, has such a major effect on it when you don't have enough or it's not being used properly? So that's just this. But in the future, I do plan on branching out, and that's why it is a series where I can kind of teach a little bit more about other subjects. As far as kidney failure and neuropathy and all of those kinds of things, that's a direct result of poor diabetes management for month to month to month to years. So you don't have to get to that point where you have these kinds of complications if you check your blood sugar, if you manage with the medication that your provider suggests, and if you constantly are checking in with your provider to make sure that the plan that you guys have set is actually working.
Yes. Oh, you know, I know you called on here to talk about this book, but I think I'd like to have you on more often to do diabetes check-in with the WURD listeners. They absolutely love you. They love you. So I really do think that because what you're doing is you're explaining it in a way that's palpable and that takes away the stigmas that are attached to having diabetes, right? And you'll be able to help us help all the providers, the diabetic counselors and nurses and doctors that have been trying forever and a day to get people to the place where they'll take this seriously. I remember when I went to my doctor a few weeks ago and she took my blood sugar and my A1C came back at 5.2. She said, "Oh, how did you do?" She was in tears, right? But for me, it was a simple click in my brain. If we know that my uncle and my father and my aunt and all these different people in my family have been diagnosed as diabetics, I can certainly do something to change how I respond to something that could definitely give me a better way of life over a long period of time. You know what I mean? And so I also knew, because I was a public figure, quote unquote, I could use the platform that I had to encourage other people to join me in bike riding, join me in hiking in the trails, and to choose what we put in our mouths so that we can have a better quality of life. Because nobody wants to get to neuropathy and to kidney failure and to losing their limbs. Nobody wants that, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, Shan, thank you so much. Thank you so much. They just posted on Facebook that Shia Learns you can purchase at www.shialearns.com, right?
Yes.
Thank
you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Please reach back out to my producer. I'd like to get you on at least monthly to continue having these conversations around our health and diabetes, okay?
I'd love to.
All right. Have a good one.
Soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, this show was so good. We talked about Trump. Then we did something else. Then we talked about Trump. Then we did something else. Then we talked about Trump. And the elections and voting and diabetic care. And, you know, this last guest she was good. I love the way she explained it. It took away the stigma and it took away the shame that often comes with us talking about diabetes. I don't want us to be ashamed to say, I was diabetic or I was diagnosed as diabetic. We can help each other because way too many people in this country are being diagnosed, and when we don't have the insulin in our bloodstream, that can cause problems for our bodies down the road. None of us want to be sit stuck to a dialysis machine or start to lose the feelings in our legs and our fingers and our feet because of neuropathy, because that means, she says in a simple way, that the blood vessels are dying. So that's something you cannot reverse, people. And so let's work this through. And as you when you are trying everything and you're continuing to lose weight without trying, that means there's something else still wrong. So for those of you who are finding that these sorts of things are happening, she said she's seeing that adults are being misdiagnosed on some levels as type 2 when they are type 1. And so she's helped me to recognize some of those signs too, to help other people. I'm so grateful to all of you. Last week, Thursday, you know, for those of us who are reporting the news and consistently dealing with what's happening around us, it can be trying. We're doing the best that we can. The producers, the radio show hosts, we're doing the best that we can under the best of circumstances here as we report to you what we know, and we try to give you our opinions and all of that. But one of the things I never want you all to forget is that we are humans too. Right? And that we feel too. And I've always learned that being in my most authentic space and sharing with all of you is what gets us to the point where we are not creating disinformation and people falling all over the place, not understanding one another. So coming up next is Sincerely Sarita with Happy Hour. Thank you all once again so much. I'll see you tomorrow. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.